Chapter 2076. There were so many people in midair, but none of them spoke. Although it was noisy below the city, the voices were very soft. Therefore, the city looked very strange. Countless experts were on guard as if they were facing a formidable enemy. The city was like a barrel of dynamite that could explode at any time. Finally, it was Elder Huang who ranked first among the 36 elders who spoke. He glanced at everyone coldly and asked, Hall Master Yun, Clan Master Tang, Clan Master Long, Hall Master Lu, Hall Master Yen, and Clan Master Fu, why did you bring so many people to Chaos City? Do you want to destroy Chaos City? Do you want to break the rules of Chaos Secret Realm? Although the 36 elders came from the 36 major forces, their memories were all sealed. Their sole purpose of existence was to protect the primal chaos mystic realm and uphold its rules. If someone wanted to break the rules and destroy Chaos Secret Realm, they would fight with their lives. The people in midair were still strangely quiet. Everyone looked at Yun Chueshua, obviously looking up to him and waiting for his command. Of course, he was also the scapegoat. After all, bringing so many people here was breaking the rules. What is it? Yun Chueshua was very handsome, and Yun Kaiwa looked very similar to him. He looked like a middle-aged man, but he was not young. It was said that Yun Chueshua was a martial arts fanatic. Before he became the Hall Master, he had been single. Yun Kaiwa was his only son. He laughed a few times, and his voice was full of sorrow. He stared at Axe Demon and said coldly, Someone killed my son, the next Hall Master of Palace Xing Yuan. What do you think I am here for? We are also very sorry for young Master Yun's death. Elder Huang said seriously, however, Chaos Island has its own rules. You are responsible for your own life and death in the Genius Arena battle. Since young Master Yun decided to come here, you must be prepared to die in battle. Today, Hall Master Yun's son had died. Could it be that in the future, every person who died in the martial arts competition would cause trouble for the entire family? Are you going to ignore the rules of Chaos Island? I don't care about other people's sons. Yun Chueshua said in an extremely overbearing manner, My son cannot die. Don't talk to me about rules. Rules are made by people. The rules of Chaos Island are also made by us. There were no rules in this world. Everything was made by the strong. Today, I'm here to break this rule. Whoever killed my son must pay with their lives. Today, I'll kill anyone who dares to stop me. Yun Chueshua's voice was thick and powerful. It was unusually determined. His words made everyone present shudder. There were some things that everyone was well aware of in secret, but no one would bring it out in the open, let alone destroy it in public. Now that Yun Chueshua had actually pointed out this point, it meant that he was already furious to the extreme and didn't care about anything else. Of course, he had also made his stance clear. Many people from the great clans wanted to say a few words, but now they didn't dare to open their mouth. There was no point in arguing with a madman. Instead, it would only invite trouble upon himself. If there was only Saint Origin Palace today, perhaps some experts would step forward, but with so many major powers here, who would dare to step forward? Not only would they offend the major forces, but they would also not be able to stop their actions. If God obstructs, slay God. If Buddha obstructs, slay Buddha. This was Yun Chueshua's attitude. Today, Luli must die, and nobody could stop it. Neither the palace of Chongyang nor the Tang family said anything. They didn't point out that they were here to kill the young man from the Eastern Devil Palace. Clearly, they had reached an agreement with Yun Chueshua to kill Luli first. Later, when the chaos was over, it would be easy for them to kill the young man from the Eastern Devil Palace. The young man from the Eastern Devil Palace was still in the City of Chaos. The Tang family had been keeping an eye on him. Maybe he hadn't fully recovered yet. At the moment, he was also located by the Tang family in a manor. Patriarch Huang was trembling with anger. A huge iron rod appeared in his hand. He said in a deep voice, "Grand Master Yun, if you really want to do something, then you will have to step over our dead bodies. Don't bother." An old man next to Yun Shueishua walked out. He looked really old. Some of his teeth were missing, and he didn't have many hairs left on his head. He stared at Patriarch Huang with his murky eyes and shouted, "Patriarch Huang, look at me!" Patriarch Huang looked over. The murky eyes of the old man glowed. Then, a ray of blue light shot into Patriarch Huang's eyes. Patriarch Huang's body trembled and his expressions became strange. Swish, swish, swish. The old man's eyes kept shooting out rays of light. Rays of light entered the eyes of the elders of Chaos Island. Then, all of the elders shook violently and their expressions became strange. Yun Zhantian, you actually unsealed their memories. Are you crazy? An elder of a major force saw that something was wrong and shouted angrily. If the memories of these elders were unsealed, they would no longer stay on the Chaos Island because these 36 elders were from different clans. If that happened, the Chaos Island would be in complete chaos. The Chaos Secret Realm might also be destroyed because of the chaos. Don't worry, elderly. Yun Shueishua waved his hand and said, "The 36 elders are originally from the 36 major forces. They are on the same side. We are not here to destroy the Chaos Secret Realm. After that, the 36 major forces will gather here again and send another person to seal the place. The Chaos Secret Realm is our Chaos Secret Realm. We will not do anything that would destroy ourselves." The memories of the 36 elders were unsealed. A few of them were from Saint Origin Palace, Chongyang Palace, Black Flame Palace, and Tang family. Naturally, their expressions became strange. If their memories were not unsealed, they would die to protect the rules of the Chaos Island. Now that their memories were unsealed, everyone's thoughts became complicated. Everyone. Yun Shueishua cupped his hands and said, "Today, we are not here to fight for the Chaos Secret Realm. We will not implicate any innocent people either. We are here to kill two people. One is the killing god of hell and the other is from the Eastern Devil Palace. If all of you try to stop him, the primal chaos mystic realm might really be destroyed, and countless people would die because of it. Which is more important? Think about it yourselves." There was dead silence. One could even hear a pin drop. After more than 10 breaths, Elder Huang waved his hand helplessly and said, "Forget it. We don't want to get involved in this. I don't have much time left. I don't want to continue guarding the Chaos Island. You can choose someone to guard it." Swish. Elder Huang flew away and left the Chaos Island. He no longer cared about what was happening here. "Forget it. I don't care anymore. Do what you want. I am going back to my clan. Let's go. After guarding this place for thousands of years, I want to go home and have a look." Elder Huang was the leader. As soon as he left, the rest of them felt disheartened. A few of them flew away. Some of them flew back to their own castles. Clearly, they would not interfere. At last, there were only 5 elders who stubbornly stayed. 5 peak of third tribulation, while the other side was the 6 major powers. There were dozens of peak of third tribulation experts. The disparity in strength was too great. Ah! Axe Demon flew up to the sky with his axe on his shoulder. He cupped his hands at the 5 guarding elders and said, "Thank you for your protection. You don't have to worry about this. I would like to see who can kill the people I, Axe Demon, want to protect today. Yun Shueishua, Tang Dao, Long Yaoyang, you guys better think this through. Our heavenly Devil Island will not go to war. Once we do, not even a blade of grass will grow. Is that so?" Chapter 2077. Yun Shueishua's words today were too much. This was what many people felt. The strength of the great Devil King had been proven by the destruction of several major powers. What he said in public was tantamount to provoking the great Devil King. It would set up a strong enemy for Saint Origin Palace. No wise leader would say such words. However, Yun Chueshua's son was dead. It was understandable that he had lost his mind due to anger. Or perhaps his combat strength was very strong. Perhaps he really wasn't afraid of the great Devil King? I don't know if my master is invincible or not, but it shouldn't be too difficult for him to destroy your Saint Origin Palace. Axe Demon's expression was stern. Rays of light lit up on his axe. He pointed at Yun Chueshua and said, Yun Chueshua, since you think you can challenge my master, why don't you fight with me first? If you can't even defeat me, you better kneel before my master in the future. Ah! Yun Chueshua laughed instead of getting angry. He shouted coldly, Axe Demon, you aren't qualified to fight me. Old ancestor Zhan Tian, go and play with him. Alright. Yun Zhan Tian was the old man who had lived for hundreds of thousands of years. He only had a few teeth left in his mouth, and all his hair was falling off. He soared up to the sky and shouted coldly, Junior, come up. Old ancestor will play with you. Swoosh. Axe Demon flew up to the sky. If they were to fight in the city, the entire city would be razed to the ground. In the city below, after Axe Demon flew up, an elder ordered for the city's restrictions to be activated. Although the two of them were high up in the sky, the aftermath of their attacks would definitely radiate over. Activating the city's protective array could protect the buildings in the city. Rumble. Soon, the battle began in the sky. Two rays of light, one red and one black, kept colliding with each other. Waves of spatial shockwaves and terrifying pressure radiated out. The space above the sky cracked and healed continuously. It was a terrifying scene. There were still many people in the city who stayed behind. They were nervously watching the battle above. Many young masters and young ladies were staring at the two who were fighting above. Although they couldn't see the battle between Axe Demon and Yun Zhan Tian clearly, it was always good to observe the battle between experts as they could learn a lot. Yun Chueshua and the others did not move. Even Tang Dao and Lu Yaoyang did not attack the people from Eastern Devil Palace. This caused many to feel bewildered. Were they here to kill the killing god of hell and the young man from the Eastern Devil Palace? Now that Axe Demon was fighting, shouldn't they take the chance to find Lu Li and the young man from the Eastern Devil Palace and kill them? Perhaps, someone finally figured out the crux of the matter. Yun Chueshua and the others did not move, perhaps they were waiting for some people to arrive. For example, they were waiting for the cultivators of the Eastern Devil Palace or the Sky Devil Island. In any case, the entire city was under their surveillance, so no one would be able to sneak away. The battle above grew increasingly intense. It was clear that both Axe Demon and Yun Zhan Tian wanted to end this battle as quickly as possible. Both of them used their ultimate moves, causing the sky to be illuminated by multicolored lights. Axe Demon's axe was obviously an artifact, and Yun Zhan Tian had also used an artifact. A terrifying divine pressure filled the air, causing many of the low-level cultivators in the city to feel suffocated. Boom! Another earth-shattering crash rang out like a clap of thunder in the middle of the night, causing many people's souls to tremble. When everyone saw a man flying backward while spitting out blood, they were all stunned. Yun Zhan Tian was defeated. He was smashed away by Axe Demon, and half of his leg was smashed. Yun Zhan Tian did not have much time left in his life, and he was on the verge of death. Now that he was severely injured again, he looked terrible. He might not live much longer. Everyone knew that Axe Demon was strong, but they didn't expect him to be this strong. Yun Zhan Tian was a powerful warrior who had made his name hundreds of thousands of years ago. Even though it was obvious that he had not made the final breakthrough, he had been studying skills for decades. How could his combat strength be weak? Yet, he was defeated in such a short time. Axe Demon stood proudly in midair, looked at Yun Chueshua coldly, and said, Hall Master Yun, your men are not good enough. You should do it yourself. Okay. Yun Chueshua let out a low roar. His body rose straight up, and the saber in his hand lit up with rays of light. he said lightly. The great demon king's subordinates are indeed some extraordinary people. If you can withstand one of my attacks without being defeated, I will let you leave. What? Everyone was in an uproar. Yun Shueishue was so arrogant? He wanted to defeat the enemy in one move? Both of them were at the peak of the third tribulation. Even if Yun Shueishue's saber was a powerful secret treasure, it was impossible for him to severely injure Axe Demon in one move. However, there was no sarcasm on Axe Demon's face. Instead, he looked serious. The axe in his hand shone brightly, but he did not attack. Instead, the light on the axe formed a halo and blocked in front of him. Ha! Yun Shueishue attacked. He did not make any complicated moves. He just swung the treasure saber in his hand and slashed forward lightly. One slash and the world was shocked. A white stripe cut across the sky. The sky was torn apart easily like a piece of blue cloth. A neat crack spread along with the saber light and reached the front of Axe Demon. A murderous aura that could destroy heaven and earth spread out from the saber light. Many weaker martial artists felt weak in their legs, and they fell to the ground. Boom! The saber light heavily struck the red light shield in front of the Axe Demon, instantly shattering it. The Axe Demon's expression turned extremely ugly. He used all his strength to urge the giant axe in his hand, and used both hands to block the front of the saber light. Bang! The axe was actually shattered by the saber light, and then the Axe Demon's hands were also shattered. A battle armor appeared around its body to automatically protect it, but the battle armor was also shattered. The flesh on the Axe Demon's chest split open layer by layer, and its body was heavily chopped downwards. Boom! The aftershock of the saber light landed on the shield of the city. The shield was shattered, and Axe Demon fell down into the plaza. If it were not for the divine patterns under the plaza, Axe Demon would have sunk into the ground. Hiss, hiss, apart from countless gasps, there was no other sound in the surroundings. Countless people's eyes were filled with terror, and even some of the elders of the major powers had astounded expressions on their faces. Hoi! Yun Shueishue, who was in the sky, slapped. A shockwave spread out in space and soon reached Axe Demon. A pagoda from Axe Demon's interspatial ring was shaken out. Then Luli came out from the pagoda and fell to the ground. Poof! Luli spat out some blood. He slowly woke up. He was shaken up by the horrifying energy. When he woke up, he used psychic power to check. His expressions changed. One of his arms hadn't grown back yet. He was a one-armed warrior. His body was weak, but he struggled to stand up. He walked to Axe Demon and asked nervously, "Lord Axe Demon, how are you?" "I will not die." Axe Demon was badly injured. He put on a bitter smile. He tried to sit up, but he touched the wound on his chest. The pain made his mouth twitch. "Grandpa," two people flew over. It was Gon Lin and Lady Yi. They arrived in a blink. Gon Lin helped Hatchet Demon up and sat him up. He took out some healing medicine and fed it to him. "Didn't I tell you to go to the governor's mansion?" Axe Demon glared at Gon Lin, who shook his head stubbornly and said, "I will advance and retreat with you, Grandpa. We will live and die together. Nobody in the Gon family is afraid of death." Chapter 2078. Yun Zhantian, who had become famous hundreds of thousands of years ago and was definitely at the peak of the third tribulation, had been defeated by Axe Demon. Axe Demon's combat power was definitely at the peak of the third tribulation, but he had been seriously injured by Yun Shueishue's attack. Many people present were a little confused. They didn't understand why there was such a huge difference in strength. Even if Yun Shueishue's saber was a top-secret treasure, it shouldn't have been defeated in one move. "Has he broken through?" An elder of a large family exclaimed. Countless people suddenly came to their senses. Their eyes were filled with shock, and then they all looked relieved and certain. There were strong and weak people at the peak of the third tribulation. People like Axe Demon already stood at the top of the third tribulation, half a step into the fourth tribulation realm. Axe Demon himself also had a secret treasure, and his axe was definitely not an ordinary one. In that case, there was only one explanation for Yunchueshue being able to seriously injure him and shatter his axe in one move. Yunchueshue had broken through the fourth tribulation realm. The further a warrior cultivated, the harder it was to break through. For example, Yun Zhantian had been at the peak of the third tribulation hundreds of thousands of years ago. He was still at the peak of the third tribulation now, unable to step out of the last step. Not only Yun Zhantian, but countless people in the second heaven were stuck at the peak of the third tribulation. For example, the 36 elders who guarded Chaos Island had been stuck at this step. Also, Yen Fengming and the others had been stuck at this step for hundreds of thousands of years. The fourth tribulation realm was an insurmountable moat for people in the second heaven. No one in the second heaven was a publicly known fourth tribulation powerhouse. Only a few people were suspected to be fourth tribulation powerhouses. The great demon king was one of them, and now Yunchueshue was another. No wonder Yunchueshue said he wasn't afraid of the great demon king. Many people suddenly realized that a fourth tribulation god could sweep away the entire second heaven. Even if the great demon king was a fourth tribulation god, they were evenly matched. What was there for Yunchueshue to be afraid of? No wonder Yunchueshue brought people here today to break the rules and remake them. He had already broken through the fourth tribulation realm. What was there to be afraid of? He could do whatever he wanted in the entire second heaven. A fourth tribulation powerhouse, a powerhouse who stood at the peak of the second heaven, had his only son killed. How could he not be angry? If it was anyone else, they would have brought their people here and killed all the gods and Buddhas who stood in their way. Luli didn't know the situation of the battle before, but he could see many problems with just a few glances. In particular, Yun Kaiwe looked like Yunchueshue. Luli could easily guess Yunchueshue's identity. He stood up, looked at Yunchueshue in midair and said, "Hall Master Yun, right? I killed your son. If you want revenge, come at me. Lord Axe Demon and the others have nothing to do with this matter. Please don't implicate the innocent." "You want to protect them?" Yunchueshue smiled coldly, then he said, "Destroy your own cultivation first, then we'll talk." Luli no. Axe Demon, who was sitting cross-legged, hurriedly opened his eyes. Although he had destroyed his god core, he could still find heavenly treasures to condense his god core. But after all, it was not the original. It was very likely that he would be stuck at his current realm for the rest of his life. "If I cripple my own cultivation, will you let them go?" Luli didn't look at Axe Demon. Instead, he looked at the sky. Yunchueshue sneered and said, "You can if you cripple your own cultivation. If you don't, then they will all die." As soon as Yunchueshue finished his words, Luli slapped at his abdomen. His move was as fast as lightning, decisive and without any hesitation. Bang! With a muffled sound, Luli's god core was shattered. Blood oozed out from the corner of his mouth, but his expressions didn't change. He continued to look at the sky and said, "Hall Master Yun, are you satisfied?" "Satisfied?" Yunchueshue put on a mocking smile and said, "You killed my son. You think I will be satisfied if I cripple you? Cut off your own legs piece by piece. I can promise you that no one will be implicated." "Death by dismemberment, hiss, hiss," many gasped. Yunchueshue was so cruel. He wanted to dismember Luli. What's more, he didn't ask someone to do it, but Luli himself. "Okay." Luli agreed without any hesitation. He looked at Gon Lin and said, "Gon Lin, Lady Yi, take Lord Axe Demon inside to have a rest. I will deal with this by myself." "Luli." Gon Lin's eyes were filled with sorrow. His eyes were red. Axe Demon was furious as well. He looked up to the sky and said to Yunchueshue, "Yunchueshue, don't cross the line. Otherwise, you will suffer retribution." "Is that so?" Yun Shueishua sneered. Then, he waved his hand and a ray of light flew down. Axe Demon was hit before he could react. He was blasted away and so was Gon Lin. Poof! Axe Demon was already badly injured. Now that he was attacked again, he passed out. Gon Lin was wounded as well. One of his shoulders was bleeding. Lady Yi was a bit far away from him so she wasn't affected. But her expressions were strange. She didn't turn pale because of fear, nor was she angry. She just looked at everything that was happening in the field with indifference. Gon Lin, take Lord Axe Demon inside. Lu Li shouted again. Gon Lin made up his mind and rushed into the yard with the fainted Axe Demon in his arms. Gon Lin was not a disloyal man. It was just that he had no other choice. He couldn't let Axe Demon die because of Lu Li, could he? Silence returned to the city. Lu Li took out a dagger. He stared at Yun Shueishua coldly and hacked at him with the dagger. A piece of flesh on Axe Demon's left leg was cut off at once. Pah! A piece of flesh fell off, dripping with blood. Lu Li's leg was bleeding as well. Many people in the city had their psychic power locked on to Lu Li. Now, they looked away because they couldn't bear to watch. Lu Li's hands never stopped or shook. He moved the dagger up and down. Every time, a piece of flesh would be cut off. Sweat dripped down from his forehead. His lips were pale and trembling, but he didn't make any sound. Alas, Lady Qiong, Lady Mu and the others had stopped using psychic power. They couldn't bear to watch, but Qin Zhan kept his eyes on Lu Li. Qin Zhan looked at Ing Ruo, who was standing on the plaza, his straight back and his determined eyes. Qin Zhan sighed. There was a trace of pain and distress in his eyes. He and Lu Li were friends. Now, he could only watch Lu Li cut himself into pieces. There was nothing Qin Zhan could do. He didn't dare to do anything. That's enough. Grand Master Yun, he is a young man after all. Why are you being so cruel? Just give him a quick death. There was almost no flesh on Lu Li's left leg. White bones could be seen. A patriarch of the chaotic island couldn't help but say. Knowledgeable as he was, he couldn't stand it anymore. After all, Lu Li was a young man. How could a bunch of old guys bully a young man like this? Yunbu, take him down. Yun Shueishua didn't give Lu Li a quick death. He waved his hand. A patriarch of the Sacred Origin Hall flew out. He was at the peak of the third tribulation. Whoosh! That old man's eyes were filled with coldness. He dashed to Lu Li's side and reached out a skinny hand to grab Lu Li's neck, ready to lift Lu Li up. Lu Li's elixir was broken and he had lost an arm. Only bones were left in his leg. As far as Yunbu was concerned, Lu Li was a useless man. Therefore, Yunbu didn't pay much attention to him and just grabbed Lu Li casually. Lu Li, on the other hand, showed a cruel smile. He grinned, revealing his blood-stained teeth. Coldly, he said, Yun Shueishua, thank you for sending a man to the grave with me. Go to hell. Chapter 2079. Lu Li checked the situation after he woke up. He knew that he was doomed today. He didn't know why Yun Shueishua was so bold or why the 36 patriarchs of the Island of Chaos didn't all come out to stop him. All he knew was that he would not survive this day. He didn't regret killing Yun Kaiwa, nor did he have other thoughts. He wouldn't blame anyone or anyone else. He just didn't want to implicate Axe Demon and the others and kill one or two more to die with him. Therefore, he shattered his pellet without any hesitation. For him, his most powerful move didn't even require divine energy. What was more, there was no divine energy left in his pellet. Last time, all of it was sucked away by the relic iron. Lu Li put his mind at ease after he got Yun Shueishua's confirmation. Such a big shot would not make trouble for Axe Demon Gon Lin and the others when he said so in front of so many people. Then Lu Li had nothing to worry about. For Yun Shueishua to send Yunbu to take it down was like a pillow for Lu Li to sleep. Yunbu had just grabbed Lu Li's neck when he realized something was wrong. Luli dropped his dagger on the ground and Yunbu's hand lightly patted Yunbu's chest. White airstream whooshed out from Yunbu's palm and rushed into Yunbu's body like a white dragon. This is primordial energy. At first, Yunbu didn't know what the white stream of air was. He only realized it when he realized that his life source was being corroded. He was frightened. If it were just a little bit of primordial energy, he could stand it. But he could not stand so much primordial energy. His life source would be corroded soon. Die. In a split second, Yunbu came to his senses. He could not contain the primordial energy. He would die for sure. But before he died, he would tear Luli into pieces. Yunbu wanted to attack in rage, but Luli was faster. After Luli released the primordial energy, a lot of energy in his acupoints moved and surged toward his only hand. Boom! Luli punched at Yunbu. The strong force knocked Yunbu away for more than 1,000 feet. Yunbu's defense was strong. Luli's physical attacks could not hurt him. That being said, he had no time to kill Luli now that he was knocked away. His vitality was fading away. He was getting older and his breath of life was weakening. Boom! He crashed heavily into a castle, creating a large hole in it. Then, he landed on an empty space behind the castle. His face was filled with rage and unwillingness. His eyes were wide open, but he was no longer breathing. Huh! All psychic power was focused on Luli. Yunbu tried to grab Luli only to be smashed away by Luli with a punch. Then, Yunbu was sent flying, and then... Yunbu died? The entire audience was somewhat dumbfounded. Today's incident was too strange. Just now, Yun Chueshue's one move to severely injure the axe demon had already greatly surprised many people. At this moment, when Luli killed Yunbu with one punch, many people could not believe their eyes. They thought they were hallucinating. Many people had seen primal chaos chi before, but that was only during the tribulation transcendence. Furthermore, there was very little primal chaos chi during the tribulation transcendence, and it was accompanied by thunder and lightning. Who would have thought that Luli's move was the heir of primordial chaos? Killing a peak tribulation 3 cultivator with one move? Could it be the hell-killing god is also a 4th tribulation expert? One of them murmured in bewilderment, feeling like he had lost his mind. If Yunbu's corpse wasn't still there, perhaps no one would believe it. How is this possible? Qin Zhan, Lady Qiong, and Lady Mu were all stunned. They knew very well about Luli's combat strength. He was strong, but not that ridiculously strong. How, in midair, the powerful warriors of the Tang family of the Saint Origin Palace were filled with doubts. How could a young man have such horrifying combat strength? If Luli was at the 4th tribulation realm, how could he be injured by Yun Kaiyue? How could he cut his own flesh? And the divine pellet? Luli's divine pellet was shattered, which was witnessed by everyone. Without divine energy, even a warrior at the 4th tribulation realm would be a useless man, wouldn't he? How could he kill a warrior at the peak of the 3rd tribulation realm with one move? Many people couldn't figure it out, but Yun Chueshue and a few others did. Yun Chueshue's expression twisted. She said while clenching her teeth, "He really is a genius. He can even control the primordial chaos chi? My son was also killed by the primordial chaos chi, right? Primordial chaos chi?" Everyone was in an uproar. Many people felt relieved. Luli had released so many white airstreams. If they were all primordial chaos chi, any warrior at the 3rd tribulation realm would die in an instant. Primordial chaos chi was specialized in destroying the source of life. No matter how strong a warrior was, once the source of life was destroyed, death was the only outcome. How can he control the primordial chaos chi? This question came to many people's mind. The primordial chaos chi was one of the most overbearing energies in the universe. Everyone avoided it like a snake or a scorpion. Nobody dared to touch it. How could Luli have the primordial chaos chi in his body? He could control the primordial chaos chi to kill his enemies? The primordial chaos chi was in his body. Why didn't it destroy his source of life? Kill him! Yun Shueishua waved her hand. 10 warriors at the third tribulation realm flew out from the Saint Origin Palace and attacked Luli from all sides. Streaks of divine energy struck down. Luli was already seriously injured and weak. He had no divine energy left in his body. He couldn't run away even if he released his dragon wings. Therefore, he didn't bother to run. He just stood where he was and let them attack him. Boom! 10 streaks of light landed on Luli. He was smashed away. Now, there wasn't a piece of his body that remained intact. But the attacks didn't kill Luli right away. Luli's body was too strong. It was impossible for average warriors at the third tribulation to kill him. Boom, boom, boom. The attacks came one after another. Luli was smashed away again and again. His injuries were getting worse, but he didn't make any noise. His eyes were cold as ice, as if he was waiting for death calmly. Alas, Lady Qin Zhanxiong and the others would check with psychic power every now and then. Their faces were filled with sorrow. Luli was dying, a peerless talent of the generation was coming to an end. This made them feel extremely miserable and sad. Many powerful warriors, young masters and young ladies had mixed feelings, especially when they saw Luli was smashed away again and again. Yet, he didn't make any noise, not even a cry of pain. Looking at his calm eyes, many people were filled with sorrow. A monster was about to die young. A hero was about to meet his end. A sad song was about to be performed. Many people were solemn and respectful. They were ready to send Luli off. That's enough. Right at that moment, a cold voice was heard. It was a woman's voice, a very young one. Many people looked over and saw a beautiful veiled lady flying up from a yard. Yin Qingxi. Chapter 2080. Someone wanted to protect Luli, and it was a famous one, Yin Qingxi, the number 1 on the list. The city was stirred up. If it were someone else who wanted to protect Luli, many people would turn up their noses and think that person was crazy. But Yin Qingxi was different. Because this person had a mysterious origin, it was highly possible that he had a powerful background. Most importantly, this person had been to the 5th level of the Saint Origin Tower. Saint Origin Palace wasn't a place that anyone could enter. This indicated that Yin Qingxi had a certain relationship with Saint Origin Palace. Or, the Saint Origin Hall must show respect to Yin Qingxi. Otherwise, the Saint Origin Hall wouldn't allow others like Tang Ning to enter the Tower of Sage Origin. Yun Shueishua pulled a long face. He stared at Yin Qingxi. His eyes flickered, but he didn't answer right away. Yun Shueishua's silence made people more certain that Yin Qingxi did have a powerful background that even Yun Shueishua was worried about. I am sorry. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, Yun Shueishua made up his mind and said, Lady Yin, if it was something else, I could show you respect. But this, no. My son is dead. This hell killer must die. Yin Qingxi's face was covered so no one could tell whether she was happy or angry. She said after a pause, How about this, Grand Master Yun, name your conditions. As long as I can do it, I will do it. What? The city was in an uproar. A lady would say such words for a man. Was Yin Qingxi in love with Luli? Otherwise, why would she pay any price for no reason? Would Lady Yin give Yun Shueishua a holy weapon if he wanted it? No conditions. This time, Yun Shueishua was stubborn. Without any consideration, he said coldly, I have said that I can show you respect for other things but not this one. I only have one son and he represents the dignity and hope of the Saint Origin Hall. Just now, the Hell Killer killed Progenitor Warlord. Alas! Yin Qingxi sighed and said nothing. She didn't know what to do. The old man beside her had not said a single word since the beginning. Lady Yin. A feeble voice came. Luli was on the verge of death. He supported himself up with one hand, grinned, and said, "Don't beg him. Life and death are decreed by fate. Riches and honor are decided by heaven. I, Luli, came from the mortal world and I am satisfied that I have made it this far. Thank you, Miss Een. Please help me retain my last dignity." Through the veil, Een Chingsi gazed at Lu Li's blood-covered face, his determined eyes, and his trembling but straight back. She murmured in a voice that only she could hear, "No wonder he is her. The man she likes is different from the others." Een Chingsi suddenly made up her mind. Her aura became cold and a red sword appeared in her hand. She pointed at Yun Chuexiu and said, "Lord Yun, I am not that talented, and I would like to exchange some pointers with you. If Hall Master can defeat me, I will leave immediately and not get involved in this matter again." Wow, it caused a great commotion in the city. Was Een Chingsi crazy? Did she really think that the number one on the genius ranking was the number one in the world? Did she have the battle prowess of a peak third tribulation cultivator? How could she have the battle strength of Axe Demon? Taking 10,000 steps back, even if her battle strength was similar to Axe Demon's, so what? Could he even withstand one move from Yun Chuexiu? Yun Chuexiu put on a bitter expression. He sighed and said, "Lady Een, why do you have to do this? How can I explain to your family if you do this? I am me and they are them." Een Chingsi said with determination, "If you can defeat me, I will not get involved in this." "Alright." Yun Chuexiu nodded and said, "Then I am sorry. I will go to the Een family and ask for forgiveness." Een family. Many people remembered the name. Many were surprised as well. They had never heard of the Een family at the second heaven. So many leaders and patriarchs of major forces were here. They must have heard of the Een family at the second heaven. Is he from the third heaven? Tang Dao and the others were wondering. But they were not familiar with the third heaven, so they didn't know the specific. Whoosh! Yun Chuexiu and Een Chingsi flew up. People in the city were curious. They wanted to see what the number one on the list could do to challenge Yun Chuexiu. However, to everyone's disappointment, Yun Chuexiu suddenly released a light shield that covered thousands of miles up in the sky. They couldn't see what was going on inside. Even Tang Dao's divine senses couldn't penetrate it and couldn't find out what was going on inside. Boom, boom, boom. Explosions came from high up in the sky. Horrifying spatial vibrations radiated down and suffocating aura spread out. It was imaginable how fierce the battle was inside. He has been fighting for so long? After the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, the battle was still going on. Many people were dumbfounded. Yun Chuexiu severely wounded Axe Demon with one move. Even if he wasn't a four-tribulation divine god, his combat strength was comparable to one. Een Chingsi had been fighting with him for so long? Was Een Chingsi also a four-tribulation divine god? Many people felt they were slapped in the face. The number one on the list was stronger than them. None of them had the confidence to fight with Yun Chuexiu for so long. Boom! After another half an incense stick, with a muffled sound, the blue light shield was broken. Een Chingsi flew down with some blood on her white veil. "Young lady." The powerful warrior following Een Chingsi was taken aback. He flew up but Een Chingsi waved her hand and said, "I am not as good as him. Let's not talk about it." That powerful warrior glared at Yun Chuexiu but said nothing. Yun Chuexiu cupped his fists and said, "Young lady Een, I am sorry." "Lu Li." Een Chingsi looked down and called Lu Li's name directly. She said, "I have tried my best. I am sorry." "Thank you, young lady Een." Lu Li smiled. He thought about it and asked, "I have a question. I wonder if young lady Een can help me make up for my regret before I die?" "Go ahead." Een Chingsi nodded. Lu Li didn't say it out loud. Instead, he sent a message. "I once knew a girl, also called Een Chingsi. She was a blind girl. Her grandpa was the crippled Zen master. Have you heard of him?" Lu Li was suspicious that Yin Qingxi was helping him so much. He was about to die. He didn't have time to worry, so he asked directly. After a moment of silence, Yin Qingxi replied, "Actually, I am not Yin Qingxi. My name is Yin Ruolin. The real Yin Qingxi is my cousin. She is the blind girl you know. But she is at the third heaven, trying to survive. This time, I am here to meet you, the girl she has been talking about a lot." I see. Lu Li understood now. Many questions in his mind were answered. No wonder this Yin Qingxi took such good care of him and helped him so much. She was the cousin of the real Yin Qingxi. "Lu Li, I am sorry. Yun Chueshua has a strong background at the third heaven. I cannot help you." Chapter 2081. Yin Qingxi left decisively. She didn't care anymore. Of course, with her combat power, she couldn't do anything even if she wanted to. Being able to fight with Yun Chueshua for so long was already shocking enough. "Keep blasting." After Yin Qingxi left, Yun Chueshua waved his hand in a domineering manner. He didn't kill Lu Li himself. Instead, he chose to torture Lu Li bit by bit, to kill him alive, to humiliate him to death in front of tens of thousands of people. Some of the people present also understood that Yun Chueshua's action was not only to vent the anger in her heart, but also to intimidate the crowd. Perhaps he wanted to change the situation of the second heaven? Today's battle was just to show off? The 10th Tribulation martial artists attacked Lu Li again and again. Just now, Lu Li's body had recovered to some extent. Now, he was injured again. His body was so strong that it was difficult for him to kill Lu Li in one go. Lu Li would suffer more. Lu Li could have committed suicide, but he didn't. It wasn't because he didn't want to die. Instead, he was looking for an opportunity to kill one or two people and drag them down with him. Unfortunately, the experts of Saint Origin Palace were very smart. The 10 of them never got close to Lu Li and bombarded him from afar. Some of them even used vicious finger winds, preparing to pierce Lu Li with thousands of holes. Sai Qinzhan stopped using psychic power. He had thought that Yin Qingxi could save Lu Li. But now it seemed that it was just wishful thinking. Lu Li could not escape death. Buzz, at this moment, space suddenly fluctuated, causing Miss Qin Zhanxiong and Miss Mu's eyes to brighten. When they saw a space gate appear in the air, they became even more excited. Could it be that the great Demon King had arrived? Space Gate. Countless people in midair were on high alert, especially the people of Saint Origin Palace. Many patriarchs of the Saint Origin Palace knew very well that the reason why Yun Chueshua didn't kill Lu Li personally was because he was waiting for someone. He wanted to see if the great Devil King would come in person. Now that the spatial gate was opened, the experts of Saint Origin Palace were naturally alarmed. It was highly possible that the intruder was an enemy rather than a friend. Whoosh, whoosh, one martial artist after another flew out of the domain gate. They were all Third Tribulation heavenly deities. Soon, the city was in an uproar. This was because many people recognized the people who came. They were from the Palace of All Life, one of the 36 great powers. What are the people from the Palace of All Life doing here? Yun Chueshua, Tang Dao, Long Yaoyang, and the others frowned. The Palace of All Life didn't send any disciples to compete this time. It was fine if they came, but why did so many experts come? Li Xiaoyao is here too. When a middle-aged man in a magnificent robe came from the domain gate, many people were even more bewildered. Li Xiaoyao was a famous person in the second celestial layer. His battle prowess wasn't top-notch, but his footwork was definitely the best in the second heaven. His speed was unmatched by any 3 Tribulation heavenly god. What shocked everyone was that after Li Xiaoyao came out, the domain gate still hadn't closed. Moreover, Li Xiaoyao was still respectfully standing to the side, as if he was waiting for someone important. Whoosh, the last figure flew out. It was a skinny old man in a black robe. He had white hair, but his spirit was hale and hearty. His eyes shone brightly, and it was obvious that he was an expert. The 10 warriors on the city wall had stopped attacking, which gave Luli some time to catch his breath. He used psychic power to check and was shocked. He knew the last one to come out from the domain gate. It was the old man Azura that he released from the dungeon of the Palace of Demons. When the old man came out, he didn't look at anyone. Instead, he looked at Luli, who was in the city. The old man smiled and said, "My friend, it has been a while." Luli struggled to stand up again. There was a glimmer of hope in his heart. Nobody wanted to die. If there was a chance of survival, then it was worth fighting for. Luli showed his red teeth and said with a bitter smile, "Greetings, sir. I am wounded. I am sorry that I cannot salute you." "Ha ha ha." The old man laughed. He waved his hand and said, "I am late. I am sorry that you have suffered." The two exchanged a few words, but the city was in an uproar. A grim reaper from hell had powerful warriors coming to protect him? First, it was the axe demon who risked his life. Then, it was Lady Een with a mysterious background. Now, there was a mysterious powerful warrior, one that even the master of the Palace of Universal Life had to stand on the side with respect. Yun Chueshue squinted. His expression grew solemn. He looked at Li Xiaoyao and asked, "Master Li, who is this?" Li Xiaoyao didn't greet him with cupped fists. Instead, he answered coldly, "This is the forefather of my family. His nickname is the Old Man of the Azura." The Old Man of the Azura? The Old Man of the Azura. Countless people were bewildered. After that, many of them trembled and their faces were filled with disbelief. The Old Man of the Azura's family had a record of him. He was a man of the moment 600,000 years ago. He once slaughtered more than a dozen powerful warriors. They didn't expect that the old man was still alive. It was not a big deal for a heaven god of 3 trials to live for decades. But as time went on, many powerful warriors would be killed. Some would go to some dangerous places or the third heaven because they couldn't make the breakthrough. But in the end, they would all die. There were also some old men who thought it was pointless to live for too long. They would gradually go crazy and seek death. Therefore, it was rare for an old man to live for 200,000 or 300,000 years. There was basically no one like the Old Man of the Azura who had lived for more than 600,000 years. 600,000 years ago, he was already a hero in the second layer of heaven. How strong was he now? Had he reached the 4th tribulation realm? Also, why did he call Luli friend? He said it was too late? Clearly, he was here to protect Luli. One was an old man who had lived for hundreds of thousands of years, and the other was a young man who was less than 100 years old. How could they know each other? Also, it seemed that the Old Man of the Azura and Luli were close. Yun Chueshue, Long Yaoyang, Tang Dao and the others were worried. After a while, Yun Chueshue cupped his fists and said, "Lord Azura, what brings you here?" The Old Man of the Azura clasped his hands behind his back. He looked at Yun Chueshue with a faint smile and said, "I once owed Luli a favor. Today, I am here to return the favor. Can Grand Master Yun do me this favor? If not, I will have to take it by force." Swish, 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 everyone from the Sacred Origin Palace, Dragon Race, Tang Family, Palace of Chongyang, Fu Family and Black Flame Palace was taken aback. The Old Man of the Azura was overbearing. It was clear that he wanted to protect Luli. If Luli didn't give him face, he wouldn't mind killing. It was clearly recorded in their families and forces that the Old Man of the Azura slaughtered more than a dozen forces and millions of powerful warriors in a fit of rage. That was how he got the name. If a war were to break out and he could defeat Yun Chueshue, all the warriors of the 6 forces would die today. This old man was a real killer. Ha ha ha! Yun Chueshue laughed out of extreme anger. His domineering aura spread out and he was filled with murderous intent. He shouted coldly, Old man of the Azura, I respect you as a senior, so I am being polite to you. Don't think that you can take advantage of your seniority just because you have lived for hundreds of thousands of years. Think about the future generations of the Palace of Life. If you lose today, aren't you afraid that all the people of the Palace of Life will die? Yun Shueishue was completely enraged. His tone became extremely cold. He even threatened the lives of everyone in the Palace of Life. Of course, he was telling the truth. If the old man of the Azura lost, none of the powerful warriors of the Palace of Life would be able to escape. I have thought about it. The old man of the Azura's expression didn't change. He said indifferently, but you? Not enough. Chapter 2082. If it was someone else who said this, people might think it was arrogant. However, with old Azura's reputation and temperament, people felt he had the confidence. They even thought, maybe he really had the ability to defeat Yun Shueishue. One was an old monster that had lived for decades. The other was the leader of the second most powerful force on the second heaven. He had severely injured the number one killer of the Demon King, the Axe Demon. The fight between the two made many people's blood boil. They were looking forward to it, hoping to witness this amazing fight with their own eyes. Okay. Yun Shueishue bellowed and waved his hand, saying, since old Azura wants to play, then I shall accompany you in a battle. I would also like to experience the power of a cultivator whose name has shaken the second heaven in just a few decades. Let's go to the sea. Old Azura said, if we fight here, the city will be destroyed. If the realm of primordial chaos collapses, you and I will both be sinners. Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, old Azura soared into the sky. He paused in midair and looked at Li Xiaoyao. Xiaoyao, before I return, if anyone dares to touch a single hair on little friend Lu, I will kill them without mercy. Yes. Li Xiaoyao and the other powerful warriors obeyed. Not to be outdone, Yun Shueishue flew up and followed old Azura out of the island. He also said, Yao Yang, Brother Tang, Brother Yen, keep an eye on him. If the Hellkiller doesn't move, leave him alone. If he tries to escape, kill him. Ha ha. Long Yao Yang smiled eerily. Brother Yun, don't worry. We are here. This guy can't run away. Even though Li Xiaoyao had brought many powerful warriors from the Palace of Life, there were several families here. It would be difficult for Li Xiaoyao to take Lu Li away. However, old Azura's words deterred the other forces. Otherwise, if Yun Shueishue lost and Lu Li was killed, old Azura would kill all 6 forces to avenge Lu Li. Sir, be careful. Lu Li pursed his lips, looked at the old man and said softly. In his heart, he was also very gratified. Good deeds were sown, and in the end, good things came to fruition. Years ago, he saved old Azura from the palace under the Demon Mountain. Today, old Azura was willing to fight against 6 forces for him. This was karma. Whoosh, 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 countless people in the city flew up, following them towards the other side of the sea, wishing to witness this world-shocking battle. The 6 forces all wanted to go, but Li Xiaoyao and the others were also worried. But they all had to see Lu Li, so none of them could leave. Lu Li was nervous as well. He took some healing pellets to heal his wounds. Before, he thought he was going to die, so he didn't worry too much. Now that there might be a chance of survival, he naturally had to fight for it. He had seen old Shura fight before. He had only used 30% of his power, but he had been able to suppress the new Demon King. Right now, his combat strength was definitely at its peak. How strong could he be now? Lu Li couldn't imagine it. Boom, 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 suddenly, a series of muffled explosions sounded in the northern sky. It was as if thunderclaps were coming from afar. Everyone turned to look, and the scene they saw was extremely shocking. Streaks of startling flowing light lit up in the north. As the flowing light whistled, the sky in the north shattered. Streaks of multicolored light appeared, and an oppressive aura came from there. 50,000 miles. This place was at least 30,000 miles away from the sea. The two were fighting on the sea, but people here could faintly see the situation and feel the pressure. It was not hard to imagine the intensity and horror of the battle. When Yunchueshua fought with the axe demon, he didn't use much strength. Also, he held back when he was fighting with Inqingxi. Yunchueshua must have reached the fourth tribulation realm. A patriarch of a major force yelled. Many people nodded in agreement. This was a horrifying battle. This was Yunchueshua's real abilities. Old Shura must have reached the fourth tribulation realm as well. Li Xiaoyao and those from the Palace of Life were nervous. How could Yunchueshua be so powerful? Old Shura must be fine. This forefather was the towering tree of the Palace of Life. The people here were fine, but the thousands that went to the island were scared out of their wit. Even some patriarchs were tense. They would tremble from time to time. They didn't dare to get too close for fear that they might be implicated by the aftermath of the attacks. They believed that they would be smashed into pieces if they were hit by one random move. Many people wanted to get closer to watch, but they all retreated when they got close. They only dared to watch from thousands of miles away. Even if they were thousands of miles away, they had to retreat immediately when the aftermath of the attacks reached them. Otherwise, they might be injured. Boom! A beam of light suddenly hit a nearby island. The island was only in the middle. There used to be some people living on it, but they had left long ago. After the beam of light hit, the island suddenly exploded. The seawater tumbled in waves were tens of thousands of feet high. When the seawater calmed down, the island was gone. It was erased. Clatter, the aftermath of the attacks kept hitting the bottom of the sea, causing the waves to tumble and spread in all directions like a tsunami. There were some chaos beasts under the sea, but they were either killed or escaped. Not a single fish could be seen. The two seemed to be evenly matched. They fought for a full hour without a clear winner. However, the battle was getting more and more intense. After another hour, a figure suddenly fell from the sky and crashed heavily into the sea. Everyone used their divine consciousness to check. When they saw that it was Yunchueshua, there was an uproar. Bang! Yunchueshua rushed up from the bottom of the sea. There was blood at the corner of his mouth. He looked at old Azura, who was standing in the sky, and said with a bitter smile, "Old Azura, you are indeed a powerful warrior who has lived for hundreds of thousands of years. I am sincerely convinced." "It's good that you are convinced." Old Azura was expressionless as before, as if he had never fought. He said calmly, "I don't have any grudges against the Saint Origin Palace. Let's call it a day. I will take him away. You can leave now." The onlookers were relieved. It would be good if the battle could end like this. The second heaven wouldn't be in turmoil. Many forces were relieved that old Azura could suppress Yunchueshua. Otherwise, Yunchueshua might really change the situation of the second heaven with his power and influence. Ha ha! Yunchueshua smiled gently. He wiped off the blood at the corner of his mouth and said calmly, "I lost, but you can't take him away." What? There was an uproar around the island. Yunchueshua was defeated. Who else could defeat old Azura? What did he mean by he couldn't take him away? Could it be that Yunchueshua was going to gather the forces of the six forces and fight against the Palace of Life to keep Luli here? Oh! Old Azura was surprised. He asked with a frown, "What do you mean? Do you have other tricks up your sleeves? If you are not convinced, just use them. I will take it." "I am afraid you can't." Chapter 2083. The Black Phoenix token was beautiful. There was a vivid black phoenix engraved on it, and it was covered with divine patterns. Even though it was just a token, it felt like a piece of treasure. The old man of Azura took a look at the token. His expression didn't change much, but his pupils contracted. He couldn't help but shout, "Black Phoenix token!" Yunchueshua nodded and said, "Senior Azura, you are really experienced and knowledgeable. Yes, this is the Black Wind token. Since you can recognize this token, you should know what it represents, right? If I crush this token, what do you think will happen? Even though Yun Chueshua's voice was not loud, the onlookers were all powerful enough so they heard him. Nobody had heard of this token, but judging from Yun Chueshua's words, this token must be very valuable. It must represent some kind of powerful force. A force that was beyond Yun Chueshua and the Old Man of Azura. Nothing. The Old Man of Azura responded in a domineering manner, crush it. I owe my friend Lu a life. I can give it back to him. It is worth it to exchange my life for a Black Phoenix token. Yun Chueshua was stunned, and so were the onlookers. The Old Man of Azura was willing to risk his life for Luli. From this, it could be seen that the power represented by this token was really powerful. Senior Azura, Yun Chueshua shouted coldly. His tone became very strict. This time, I must kill the Azura of Hell. I will use everything I have. So, don't doubt my determination. Think about the Palace of Life. Once you are dead, do you think the Palace of Life can still exist? For the sake of Azura of Hell, are you willing to put your entire family on the line? For the first time, the Old Man of Azura's expressions changed. Yun Chueshua had hit his soft spot. If he were just a rogue cultivator, he wouldn't mind giving the token back to Luli since his life was saved by Luli. However, his family was huge, and he had countless descendants. If he were dead and Yun Chueshua used the Black Phoenix token for him, things would not end well. By then, the Palace of All Beings would definitely be destroyed by him. With Yun Chueshua's battle prowess, she alone could level the entire Palace of All Beings. Old Azura was silent for half an incense stick's worth of time before he said, Hall Master Yun, this old man owes little friend Lu his life. If you can spare his life, you can name any condition and this old man will definitely fulfill it. The old man was so powerful and had such a high status. How could he be willing to sacrifice so much for a mere junior? Oh, little friend Lu a life? Could it be that the hell-killing god had once saved the old Shura's life? However, the hell-killing god's battle prowess was worlds apart from old Azura's. How had he managed to save old Azura's life? No conditions. Yun Chueshua replied stubbornly, Senior Azura, my son is dead. My only son is dead. The dignity of Saint Origin Palace has suffered the greatest provocation. The hell-killing god must die. There's no room for discussion. If you insist on obstructing me, then I can only use the Black Phoenix token to kill you, and then I swear that I will destroy your Palace of Life. How dare you threaten me? Murderous intent surged out from old Azura. How horrifying was the murderous intent of this old man who had slaughtered millions of warriors from more than a dozen major forces. The surrounding space froze. Countless people felt suffocated. It's not a threat, Yun Chueshua replied coldly. Divine energy glowed in his hand. He was ready to crush the Black Phoenix token at any time. He shouted, This is advice, Senior Azura. I have no other choice. Let's forget it. I will go to the Palace of All Beings and apologize. Never mind. Old Azura showed a trace of guilt. He sighed helplessly and then flew to the City of Chaos. Yun Chueshua also flew over slowly. He was afraid that old Azura would take Luli away by force. The onlookers rushed to the city immediately. Today's show had shaken them to their core. Of course, they wanted to see the end of the show and the death of Luli. What? There were still many people left in the city. Most of them were warriors from small families. They didn't dare to go over to watch the fight for fear of being implicated. Seeing old Azura flying back, many people thought that old Azura had won. They couldn't help but discuss. Old Azura is back? Look at how calm he is. Did he win? The god of massacre of hell can be saved. Not necessarily. I can see some helplessness in old Azura's eyes. I think Grand Master Yun has won. Good heavens, how powerful is Grand Master Yun? Even an old, powerful warrior that has cultivated for hundreds of thousands of years cannot defeat him? If Grand Master Yun has won, then this god of massacre of hell is doomed. He cannot escape death after all. Stop talking. They are coming. Well, Grand Master Yun is back as well. There is blood at the corner of his mouth. Old Azura has won. Many people used psychic power to check on old Azura and Yun Chueshua. When they saw the blood at the corner of Yun Chueshua's mouth, they were sure that old Azura had won. Li Xiaoyao and the powerful warriors of the Palace of All Beings were overjoyed. After all, they were only one force while there were 6 forces here. If old Azura had lost, then things would be troublesome. The warriors of the 6 forces looked awful. They all saw the blood at the corner of Yun Chueshua's mouth. However, when their gazes met Yun Chueshua's, all of their eyes lit up. They saw the smile and pride in Yun Chueshua's eyes. If he were a loser, he would never have such a look. Lu. Old Azura arrived above the city. He looked even more guilty. He cupped his fists and said, "I am sorry. I can't do anything to help you." When old Azura flew over, Luli could see many problems when he made eye contact with old Azura. Bitterness appeared on Luli's face. The greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. Just now, Luli had some desire to live, but now, he was doused with cold water from head to toe. But Luli came to his senses quickly. He grinned and said, "Don't blame yourself. I am already moved to tears. Thank you very much." Even though Luli was covered in wounds and many of his ribs were broken, he endured the pain and bowed down. He was a man who could distinguish between kindness and hatred. Old Azura was willing to fall out with Yun Chueshua for his sake. "Do you have any unfulfilled wishes?" Old Azura didn't leave. He remembered something. He looked at the Grand Master of the Hall of Black Flame and asked with a frown, "I remember that you asked me to kill the Grand Master of the Hall of Black Flame?" Swish, 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 the Grand Master of the Hall of Black Flame and all the other powerful warriors were frightened. They all took out their weapons and treasures at once, as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Old Azura was a 4th Tribulation Heaven immortal. If he were to make a move, he could kill the Grand Master of the Hall of Black Flame in one move. "That is not necessary," Luli said. He asked old Azura to kill the Grand Master of the Hall of Black Flame because he only had one enemy. Now that he had offended so many forces, killing the Grand Master of the Hall of Black Flame would be meaningless. Luli bowed again after some thoughts and said in a deep voice, "Sir, I am from a place called the Divinity, a place in the first heaven. There are my people and friends there. If it is not too much trouble, please take care of them for me." "Divinity?" Old Azura nodded. Then, he looked around and said, "Family members should not be harmed. This is the principle and rule that everyone in the second heaven must follow. Today I will say it out loud. If anyone dares to mess around in the Divinity, I will kill his entire family." "Thank you again, sir." Chapter 2084. Old Azura had left. Like Yin Qingxi, they left without hesitation when they knew there was no way to save Luli. There was no trace of reluctance. Or maybe they didn't want to see Luli die because it would break their hearts. But now, people were looking at Luli in a different light. After all, a young man with no fame and no background could be protected by so many big shot. This indirectly indicated many things. Of course, the fact that Luli could kill Yun Kaiwe was proof of his abilities. His courage and resolution were even stronger. Many people felt they were not as good as him. This time, Yun Chueshua didn't ask the 10 warriors to take action. He was going to do it himself. What should come was here, right? After so many twists and turns, he didn't want any more accidents to happen. He only had one son. If he couldn't avenge Yun Kaiwe, he would be ashamed to be a father. Also, the dignity of the Saint Origin Hall could not be trampled on. If he couldn't kill Luli, Yun Shueishu wouldn't be able to stay in the second heaven, and he wouldn't be qualified to be the Grand Master of the Saint Origin Hall. Whoosh! He flew over and a saber appeared in his hand. He was ready to cut Lu Li into pieces. Only in this way could he vent his anger and pay tribute to Yun Kaiyue's soul in heaven. Nice! Lu Li's eyes glowed. He was excited to see Yun Shueishu coming. He still had a lot of energy of primordial chaos. Even if he couldn't kill Yun Shueishu, it would be worthwhile to wound him. Swish! Yun Shueishu stopped when he was about 1,000 feet away from Lu Li. He waved his saber and a ray of sword light whooshed by. A piece of flesh on Lu Li's other leg was cut off. Blood gushed out. A glint of coldness rose in Lu Li's eyes. Seeing that Yun Shueishu didn't come closer, Lu Li made up his mind. Dragon wings appeared on his back, and he dashed over like a bolt of lightning. The energy of primordial chaos glowed in his hand as he tried to attack Yun Shueishu. Ha ha! Yun Shueishu sneered. He waved his hand. A surge of energy spread out and suppressed Lu Li. Halfway through, Lu Li could not move anymore. No matter how hard he tried, he could not move at all. Whoosh! Yun Shueishu hacked at Lu Li again, and another piece of flesh fell off. He kept hacking at Lu Li's legs with his saber. Not a single piece of flesh remained intact on Lu Li's legs. His body couldn't hold on any longer, and he crashed to the ground. His entire body was soaked in blood, and it was a horrible sight to behold. It was dead silent. Nobody said anything. All they could do was watch as Lu Li was minced by Cloud Shueishu bit by bit. Many people couldn't bear to watch. Qin Zhan and the others retracted their divine senses. They couldn't bear to watch. He's a man. Some people murmured. From the beginning to the end, Lu Li never let out a cry of pain. How painful it was to be cut into pieces alive. Even a man made of iron would not be able to hold it in. It was human instinct to scream. Enough! After Yun Shueishu hacked at Lu Li for more than a dozen times and cut off more than a dozen pieces of Lu Li's flesh, a girl shouted. The city was very quiet at this moment, so even though the shout wasn't very loud, it sounded like a clap of thunder. Oh! Countless people were shocked. Could it be that another heaven-defying expert had come to protect the Hell's Grim Reaper? Didn't this Hell's killing god have no background? Why would so many people want to protect him? When people checked the source of the voice with psychic power and found the owner of the voice, they were all stunned. Even Lu Li was shocked. Then he scolded at once, "Lady Yi, what are you doing? This is none of your business. Leave." It was Lady Yi who spoke. She didn't leave with Gan Lin. She stood hundreds of feet away from Lu Li. Lady Yi once participated in the contest of geniuses. She was from the Omen Island and she was a beauty. Therefore, many people remembered her. They didn't expect that she would have the courage to speak at this moment. Her tone was unkind. Was she out of her mind? Was she courting death? Yun Shueishu had nowhere to vent her anger at the moment. Lu Li's tone was strict. Naturally, he wanted to protect Lady Yi. He didn't want her to be implicated because of him. Yun Shueishu really had the courage to kill. At his level and status, he wouldn't have too many scruples. Lady Yi's expressions didn't change much. She just looked at Yun Shueishu coldly and said, "Yun Shueishu, let's call it a day." What? Everyone was in an uproar. If it were someone else, even if it were the Axe Demon, people wouldn't feel uncomfortable. Lady Yi was just a young girl. She couldn't even make it to the top 30 in the contest of geniuses. How dare she talk to Yun Shueishu like this? Was she out of her mind? Gan Lin. Lu Li shouted again, "Come out and bring Lady Yi back." Ha ha. Yun Shueishu smiled. She stared at Lady Yi and said, "You are from the Omen Island? Didn't your elders teach you how to behave? Do you really think I don't have the courage to kill you?" Whoosh. Gan Lin flew out from a yard. He had been paying attention to the situation here. Seeing that Lady Yi was courting death, he had to stop her. Anyone who dared to protect Luli would have to face death under the current circumstances. Gon Lin, go back and look after your grandpa. Lady Yi glanced over coldly. A streak of blue flame suddenly appeared in her eyes. Gon Lin was on his way back when he saw the pair of eyes. His eyes glowed. He bent over and was about to kneel. Go back. Lady Yi waved her hand. Gon Lin didn't dare to kneel anymore. He turned around and went back without any hesitation. When he turned around, he was overjoyed. Many people were paying attention to Gon Lin. They saw the joy on his face and the fact that he was about to kneel. Many people were confused. They didn't understand why Gon Lin was doing this. Yun Chueshue. Lady Yi looked at Yun Chueshue emotionlessly and said again, I will give you one chance. Leave with your men at once. Today's matter ends here. Or else you will face the consequences. What? The city was in an uproar. Everyone thought Lady Yi had lost her mind. They all looked at Yun Chueshue with psychic power, trying to see how furious he would be. Courting death. Yun Chueshue was enraged. He hacked down with his saber. A streak of red sword waves swept across and reached Lady Yi in an instant, swallowing her up. Lady Yi! Luli shouted in sorrow. He stared at Lady Yi with bloodshot eyes. Even though he didn't have many dealings with Lady Yi, he really saw her as a friend. In the next second there was dead silence. Luli's mouth was wide open. Many people looked as if they had seen a ghost. Yun Chueshue's eyes glowed with surprise. Yun Chueshue's horrifying move could not cause any harm to Lady Yi. Lady Yi didn't even move one step. She was still standing there, expressionless. Yun Chueshue reacted quickly. He stared at Lady Yi, pointed at her and said, You are buzzing? Lady Yi's body glowed as a black armor appeared over her body. A black mask appeared in her hand as well. She put it on slowly. The black mask gave off a cold metallic glare. An invisible murderous intent spread out from Lady Yi and enveloped the entire place. Everyone in the city, including Yun Chueshue, felt chills running down their spines. The armor was covered with dense divine patterns and glistened in a black glare. One look and one could tell it was not an average item. The mask was exquisitely made and looked lifelike. But none of that mattered. What mattered was, this was just a mask of a demon. If a mask couldn't mean anything, then the fact that Yun Chueshue's attack didn't cause any harm to Lady Yi and the surging murderous intent could explain many things. Demon? Lu Li's eyes were wide open. He couldn't accept it. He couldn't associate that quirky and beautiful girl with the demon who could kill without batting an eyelid at the second heaven. Chapter 2085. Lady Yi's identity had always been a mystery. Nobody knew where she came from and she often disappeared for no apparent reason. Patriarch Chun and the others didn't know who she was. All they knew was that Fairy Tian Yun valued her. She knew a lot and Luli got a lot of information from her. She even gave Luli the explosive energy pellet. Luli once suspected that she might be the daughter of the Demon King. But the Demon King and Fairy Tian Yun were not married. Therefore, she couldn't be their child. But Lady Yi was the Demon King? Sensing the cold killing intent from Lady Yi, Luli somehow believed that the lady in front of him was the Demon King. Average people, not even the Axe Demon, could have such an imposing manner. She was even more imposing than Yun Chueshue. Not only Luli, but everyone in the city had the same feeling. Even though many didn't know who she was, they could tell from her imposing manner that she was a powerful warrior. Just now, many people thought Lady Yi had lost her mind. At this moment, they were speechless. Many were surprised. How could a person change so fast? Just now, she was just a weak girl and now she was a powerful warrior of the Supreme Realm. Wait. If she is the Demon King, why is she so young? How can she participate in the arena? Can't the 36 patriarchs feel anything? A patriarch of a family murmured. This question confused many people as well. The Demon King had been famous for many years. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, he had already dominated the second heaven. He was old, but Lady E was so young. A warrior could hide his power, but he couldn't change his vital energy. That was the vital energy of a person. At first, Yunchueshua had some doubts. But now, he was sure. After all, this person was so powerful. He couldn't help but ask, "Are you the Demon King?" Everyone quieted down. Nobody dared to say anything. They waited nervously for the lady's answer. Lady E didn't answer. She just took out a black spear. The spear was special. There was a black dragon pattern on the body of the spear. As soon as she took it out, the black dragon pattern moved around the body of the spear. Spear of Demon King. She is the Demon King. A patriarch shouted. All the patriarchs of the major forces had information about the Demon King. If the Demon King's mask could not prove anything, then the Spear of Demon King was more than enough. When the great Demon King revealed his identity, the crowd went into an uproar. The great Demon King had been famous in the second heaven for a long time, but he had never left the heavenly Devil Island to play and socialize, let alone deal with the leaders of the major forces. The only times she came out were to fight. Every time she came out, there were great forces and experts that were destroyed. Therefore, strictly speaking, no one present had seen the true appearance of the great Demon King, nor had they seen the great Demon King on such an occasion. Who would have thought that the great Demon King would disguise herself as a delicate young lady and personally participate in the Genius Tournament? Most importantly, she didn't even make it into the top 30 of course. Everyone knew that the great Demon King was only here to play. Otherwise, with her battle strength, when facing Yun Kaiwa, she would probably be able to crush him in one move. Yun Chueshua's expression became unprecedentedly serious, even more serious than old Shura's. This was because this woman was too strong. After becoming famous, she had fought so many battles and had never lost a single battle. Some people even regarded her as the #1 person in the second heaven. Hoo-hoo! He took a deep breath, cupped his hands and said, "Great Demon King, is the hell-killing god a disciple of your clan?" "No." The great Demon King answered coldly. Then she waved her hand and added, "You don't have to ask more. Luli has nothing to do with me. He is not a member of my clan, nor is he my subordinate, nor is he my man. But if I want to protect him, I don't need to be reasonable. Yun Chueshua, you have reached the 4th tribulation realm, and you are somebody. It is not easy to cultivate. Don't make a mistake." "I knew it." The great Demon King confirmed this herself. Yun Chueshua was a 4th tribulation heaven immortal, and so was old Shura. If the great Demon King said so, then he must be a 4th tribulation heaven immortal. Ha ha ha. Yun Chueshua laughed out of anger. There was a trace of grief and shame in his laughter. He sneered and said, "Who do you think you are? Are you a master at the second heaven? My son is dead. My only son is dead. Do you know? Since this Luli has nothing to do with you, why are you protecting him? Do you really think I, Yun Chueshua, am a pushover that you can pinch at will?" "Your son is dead," the great Demon King replied coldly, "but you seem to have forgotten one thing. He was killed in the Genius Tournament. Since he has chosen to participate, he must be prepared to die. If it were any other situation, I wouldn't say anything. But you are breaking the rules by force. Luli is a member of the Omen Island. Of course I have to take care of this." "Rules?" Yun Chueshua's eyes were glowing red. He sneered and said, "Rules are made by powerful warriors. If they can be made, then they can be broken. I don't care how my son died. Whoever killed him must pay with their lives." "Is that so?" The great Demon King shrugged and said, "According to you, I am also a powerful warrior. I can make rules as well. Now I will make a rule. From now on, no one over 1,000 years old at the second heaven can attack Luli. Otherwise, I will kill him." Everyone was moved. The great demon king was so domineering. She made rules directly to the second heaven. Did she really think she was the supreme emperor of the second heaven? Did she think that anyone at the second heaven had to obey her? Okay. Yunchueshua shouted 3 times and didn't waste any more words. Today, it seemed that a bloody battle was the only way. Talking was not going to work. He flew up and stood in midair with pride. Pointing his saber at the great demon king, he said, "Great demon king, you can make rules, but you must defeat me first. Let's go to the seaside. I want to see how powerful you are." "Why do we need to go to the seaside?" the great demon king said lightly. Then her spear glowed. She didn't fly up. She just raised her spear and stabbed at the air. Buzzing. As the spear stabbed out, the space in front of her suddenly fluctuated. It was as if the spear had pierced into the water, causing ripples. As the spear stabbed out, a surge of extremely cold chi and energy came out from the spearhead. At that moment, everyone in the city felt their bodies and souls were frozen. The world seemed to have been frozen at this moment. It could even be said that the entire world disappeared. In everyone's mind, there was only the spear that was slowly stabbing out. The spear seemed to have come out from the world of nothingness. It could destroy everything and pierce through everything. Boom! A soft sound exploded in everyone's mind. The strange scene just now disappeared from everyone's mind. Everyone couldn't help but look at the sky. However, the scene in front of them made everyone unable to believe their eyes. They saw, the lower half of Yunchueshua's body had been twisted into a mist of blood. Only the upper half of her body was left. Chapter 2086. Yunchueshua was very powerful. Axe Demon was at the peak of the third tribulation, but he was severely injured by Yunchueshua in one move. Inqingxi was also defeated by Yunchueshua. Though she was defeated by Old Azura was an old man who had been cultivating for hundreds of thousands of years and had even broken through the fourth tribulation. There were warriors in the second heaven who had broken through the fourth tribulation. There were a few in history, but they were extremely rare. Once they broke through the fourth tribulation, they would be the top powerhouses in the second heaven. In many people's minds, Yunchueshua would be one of the overlords of the second heaven in the future. Today's display of power was very effective. Some people were even worried that Yunchueshua would unify the second heaven with today's display of power. Unexpectedly, such a powerful figure was defeated by the Demon King in one move. What was even more unexpected was that the lower half of Yunchueshua's body was crushed into pieces, leaving only the top half. His lower abdomen was crushed, which meant that his divine elixir had also exploded, and he was temporarily disabled. Even if he could form his divine elixir again in the future, his cultivation would be greatly affected. Since she could severely injure Yunchueshua in one move, if the Demon King's spearhead was slightly off, for example, toward the head, it would be the head that would be crushed into a mist of blood. Yunchueshua would also be dead by now. Everyone was scared out of their wit. Many people were trembling in fear and nervousness. They felt that compared to the great Demon King, every single one of them present was like a mortal in the mortal world. They were all ants. Invincible. Previously, the Demon King only gave people the impression that she was very powerful. She defeated several major forces by herself. After today's battle, she gave people the impression that she was invincible. She was absolutely invincible in the second heaven. Previously, some people thought that she was weaker than a reclusive powerhouse. Now, no one thought that way anymore. She was definitely number one. Based on the attack just now, the Demon King was already recognized as the number one in the second heaven. Some people even suspected that she had reached the fifth tribulation. One had to know that the fifth tribulation was already a supreme figure in the third heaven. Yunchueshua, who was in midair, spat out blood. His body that had been crushed was also spewing out blood. It was a horrible sight. Buzzing, Yunchueshua reacted quickly. He took out 2 golden elixirs from the ring on his finger and swallowed them. Otherwise, he would die from excessive bleeding. Without the support of divine energy, he fell down slowly and eventually landed on the plaza, only 2 miles away from Luli. Because he had lost his legs, he couldn't even sit up, let alone stand. He could only lie on his side on the ground. He did not faint, but his face was pale from the loss of blood. His eyes were filled with weakness, but there was even more shock in them. Even now, he still couldn't figure out why the great demon king was able to shred the lower half of his body in one move. Just now, he didn't even have time to react. He only felt a pain in his lower body and then it was crushed. What kind of killer move was that? When he recalled it, he was still overwhelmed with shock. He was sure of one thing: that killer move contained an extremely powerful time intent, otherwise he wouldn't have been unable to react. Could he have broken through to the 5th tribulation realm? An idea popped up in Yunchueshua's mind. Then, his expressions became ferocious. He stared at the great demon king like a viper and said, "Good, very good. Great demon king, you actually dared to destroy my divine elixir?" The great demon king's entire face was covered by the demon king's mask. Only a pair of cold eyes could be seen. She replied indifferently, "If it were not for the fact that it is not easy for you to cultivate, you would be dead by now." Buzzing, Yunchueshua's ring glowed. A token with a black phoenix sculpture appeared in his hand. With a cruel smile on his face, he stared at the great demon king and said, "Great demon king, do you recognize this token?" "No." The great demon king glanced at it and said, "Do you think this token can scare me? So, you don't know much about the 3rd heaven?" Yunchueshua laughed mockingly and said, "The Black Phoenix token is the token of the Phoenix Empress, a great sovereign of the 3rd heaven. Once I crush this token, the Phoenix Empress will sense it and descend to the lower realm. Do you think you are a match for a 3rd heaven sovereign?" "Emperor!" Many gasped. There were many emperors at the 3rd heaven and every one of them was a supreme being. Even powerful warriors at the 3rd heaven must kneel in front of emperors, let alone those at the 2nd heaven. For emperors at the 3rd heaven, all those at the 2nd heaven were puny insects. Emperor? Lu Li's heart skipped a beat. Back in the days, Emperor Z was an emperor at the 3rd heaven. Emperor Yang, who killed Lu Li, and Emperor Mu, the former master of the 9 Strange Mountain, were all emperors at the 3rd heaven. Those who could be titled as emperors were all supreme existences. They represented absolute battle prowess and authority. There were many powerful warriors at the 3rd heaven. How powerful was Phoenix Empress to be able to become an emperor? It was unimaginable. No wonder old Azura is afraid. Some patriarchs of major families who were watching from the seaside were relieved. If old Azura were to fight against an emperor at the 3rd heaven, he would be doomed. Once he died, the palace of life would come to an end. It would be destroyed by Yunchueshua. How did Yunchueshua get this token? Many people could not figure it out. The token of an emperor represented the majesty and power of an emperor. Only an emperor could issue such a token. Also, the token could not be transferred to someone else. Otherwise, if the emperor knew about it, he would be implicated and killed. Yunchueshua was a powerful warrior at the 2nd heaven. He could only be an average warrior at the 3rd heaven. How could he be related to an emperor? Ha ha, you don't believe that this token is real? Yunchueshua heard some whispers. He shouted, "Do you think I have the guts to scare you with a fake token? If I have a fake token and Phoenix Empress knows about it, all of our families will be doomed." This token was passed down by the first family patriarch of the Yun family. He was one of the 6 assassins under the command of Phoenix Empress. When Phoenix Empress became an emperor, she was given this Black Phoenix token. Later, due to some special reasons, our ancestors brought our families to the second heaven and founded the Saint Origin Hall. That is how the token was passed down. Devil Lord. Yun Shueishua raised the token high and said, I will give you a chance now. Leave Luli here and I will let you go. Otherwise, I will have to use this precious Black Phoenix token to kill you. Everyone quieted down, waiting for the Devil Lord's decision. Many people believed Yun Shueishua's words. After all, with Yun Shueishua's identity, he could not fabricate such a lie. The token must have been given to the Yun family by Phoenix Empress. Otherwise, he wouldn't dare to use it so casually. Seeing that the Devil Lord was silent, Luli forced a smile and said, Devil Lord, thank you. But don't worry about this. An emperor at the third heaven was a powerful figure. Even if the Devil Lord was very powerful, once his avatar came, he could suppress the Devil Lord with just his mind. He didn't need to use any powerful means. Ha ha. Chapter 2087. The Great Devil King's choice caused an uproar in the city. It also made Yun Shueishua very confused. The token was real. It was indeed left behind by his family's old ancestor. There was an ancestral rule that the token was not to be used unless it was a matter of life and death for the family. Therefore, Yun Shueishua took out the token just to scare the Great Devil King. He didn't really want to crush it. Now, he was in a dilemma. If he didn't crush it, he could only leave with his tail between his legs. Not only would he not be able to avenge his son, but the prestige of Saint Origin Palace would also be swept to the ground. He would never be able to raise his head again. If he crushed the token, the Great Demon King would immediately kill him, and the Yun family would lose one of their most precious treasures. There would be no chance to save the family in the future when the family was in a life and death situation. He looked at the several old ancestors and granduncles of the family. Although he was the current family head, he still needed to consult their opinions. The old ancestors of Yun family were also in a dilemma. If the Great Devil King didn't come out, the prestige of Saint Origin Palace would reach its peak after they killed Luli. Even if they couldn't unify the world, it was still easy for them to expand their territory and gain some benefit. Crush the Black Phoenix token and summon the Phoenix Queen. A very senior old ancestor transmitted his voice and explained, We must win this war. The Great Devil King must be killed. Otherwise, our Saint Origin Palace will always be suppressed. If we are suppressed by the Great Devil King for tens of thousands of years, our Yun family will perish sooner or later. Okay. Yun Shueishua made up his mind. He suddenly exerted force in his hand, and the exquisite and gorgeous token exploded. Everyone in the city became nervous. Countless people's eyes were burning with eagerness. They wanted to see if a great sovereign of third heaven would really send a clone here. Luli and Gonlin were the most nervous, especially Luli. This was not only related to his life and death, but also the life of the Great Devil King. He didn't want to implicate the Great Devil King because of him. The people of Saint Origin Palace were also nervous because the Great Devil King had said that once the token was crushed, she would kill Yun Kaiwe. What if the Great Devil King killed Yun Shueishua before the Phoenix Queen came? Also, this token had been in the Yun family for many years. Although the Phoenix Empress was still alive, who knew if she would care about it? What if she didn't? One had to know that the Yun family's patriarch had been dead for so long. The surroundings were dead silent. There wasn't any fluctuation in the sky. The facial expression of the people of Saint Origin Palace changed. Fortunately, the Great Devil King didn't kill them. However, if there was still no movement after a while, it would be hard for Yun Shueishua to escape death. As time passed, the tens of thousands of people in the city became more and more anxious. Perhaps this token was fake? Or had the Phoenix Empress forgotten after so many years? Or was the Phoenix Empress dead? Was that why he couldn't sense the token shattering? After half the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. Lu Li and the others were relieved. If Phoenix Empress was going to descend, she would have done so a long time ago. There shouldn't be no movement until now, right? Of course, there was still no sound in the city. Everyone was still waiting in silence. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, everyone in Saint Origin Palace turned pale. Some of them even began to shiver. They were afraid. If Yun Kaiyue was the future hope of Saint Origin Palace, then Yun Chueshue was the giant pillar of Saint Origin Palace. The death of Yun Chueshue would be a devastating blow to Saint Origin Palace. Tang Dao, Long Yaoyang, Fu family, Black Flame Palace and other experts' facial expression changed slightly. They had advanced and retreated together with Saint Origin Palace. If Yun Chueshue was killed and the Great Devil King was enraged, they would be implicated as well. Ho! At this moment, the wind suddenly rose. The wind wasn't particularly strong, but it made the hearts of the people in the city tremble. Countless people with strong spirit immediately swept their eyes towards the sea. Woo! Suddenly, the wind blew violently on the other side of the sea. Then, the seawater fluctuated and the sound of huge waves was heard. The sea was 100,000 miles away from here, but they could still hear the sound of the waves? Countless people looked at each other and were horrified. Many of them were trembling because of nervousness. The eyes of the people in the city were looking at the sky on the west side of the sea. Ho! The wind was getting stronger and stronger. The heaven and earth yuan qi from all directions converged on the island, making the heaven and earth yuan qi on the island extremely rich. The avatar of Phoenix Empress is coming. Yun Chueshue and the people of the Yun family felt like they were about to cry tears of joy. From hell to heaven, it was not hard to imagine how they felt. All of them looked to the west with burning passion in their eyes. Abnormal phenomenon of heaven and earth. Lu Li's pupils constricted and his face turned paler. It was just an avatar, but it could cause such a huge commotion. How strong was the real combat ability of Phoenix Empress? Buzzing, the next second, Lu Li noticed that the whole world suddenly turned dark. Not only him, but everyone in the city also noticed that the sky suddenly turned dark. It was so dark that there was not a single ray of light. In the next second, a shocking scene unfolded before their eyes. A purple moon gradually rose on the sea in the west. Since the whole world had turned dark, the purple moon was particularly eye-catching. The day turned to night and the purple moon rose on the sea. What kind of method and skill was this? Everyone was so shocked that they couldn't utter a word. When the purple moon rose up, an even more shocking scene appeared. A person suddenly walked out from the purple moon. She was tiny and her steps were slow. Also, it was so blurry that people could not see clearly. They could only vaguely tell that it was a lady with a very slim figure. This lady seemed to have some kind of inexplicable magic. It was as if she had walked out from the purple moon and walked directly into people's minds. After the lady walked out from the purple moon, she stood outside. The world around her didn't turn bright. The strange scene was still there. A lady's voice came. "Who is calling me?" The voice was soft and pleasant, but there was an inexplicable force that made the souls of everyone in the city palpitate. They had an urge to kneel down and worship. Plop! All the people of Saint Origin Palace flew down and knelt on the ground. Yun Chueshue couldn't kneel, he could only prostrate on the ground. He shouted respectfully, "Greetings, Phoenix Queen. We are the descendants of Cloudfox. Our forefather once left us a dark phoenix token and asked us to crush it at the moment of our family's life and death. We are sentenced to death for disturbing Phoenix Queen." Plop! Plop! Many people in the city knelt down as well. Though they had nothing to do with Phoenix Queen, they all felt they should kneel. It was purely out of respect for a powerful warrior, for a big shot at the third sky. Whoosh whoosh, Tang Dao, Long Yaoyang and the others didn't dare to be careless. They all flew down, knelt on the ground and saluted Phoenix Queen. If such a big shot were to offend her, the consequences would be unimaginable. Many people on the plaza knelt down, including Lady Qin Zhanxiong and the others. Apart from the two of them, most of the people on the plaza knelt down. Lu Li sat on the ground with his legs crossed and didn't move. Phoenix Queen was his enemy. He wouldn't kneel even if she was a big shot. The other one was the great Demon King. She stood there coldly, holding the Devil King's spear in her hand, motionless like a statue. She is the descendant of Cloud Fox. The lady under the purple moon paused and sighed. Back then, he left alone. I didn't expect that he still has a descendant. Since you are the descendant of Cloud Fox, and you have used the Dark Phoenix token, what do you want from me? Just say it. I will help you this once. Chapter 2088. Phoenix Queen's words silenced the entire city. If they didn't know much about the Third Heaven Great Sovereign before, they all understood after the day turned into night, the purple moon rose from the sea, and the appearance of Phoenix Queen's clone. Of course, they weren't very clear about the specifics. They only knew that this was an existence that surpassed all of them. For example, the Phoenix Queen was a deity. Although the great Devil King was strong, he was just an outstanding figure among the mortals. The great Devil King was invincible, but the Phoenix Queen was on another level. There was no comparison between the two. They were on completely different levels. Could the great Devil King turn the day into night within 1,000,000 miles? Could he make a huge bright moon appear on the sea? He could make everyone bow down to him with just a divine avatar? The people of Saint Origin Palace shed tears of joy. Yun Shueishue's eyes turned red. He kept kowtowing and said in a deep voice, "Thank you, Phoenix Queen. Thank you, Phoenix Queen. The descendants of Yun family will be grateful for your grace for generations. Please help us, kill this man." Yun Shueishue propped himself up with one hand and pointed at the great Devil King with the other. Everyone looked at the great Devil King, wondering what she would do next. Unfortunately, the great Devil King was wearing the Devil King mask. No one could see the change in her expression. She didn't make any move either. She held the Devil King's spear motionlessly. She didn't speak and didn't even look at the clone of Phoenix Queen under the purple moon in the west. Her eyes were emotionless. She glanced at Yun Shueishue and said, "I've said before that I will kill you if you crush the token. Now you can die." Swish. The great Devil King raised the spear in her hand and stabbed at Yun Shueishue lightly. This stab was the same as before. The space rippled like water. The image of this stab appeared in everyone's mind involuntarily. It was as if the stab came out from the void, shattering and destroying everything. Yun Shueishue was horrified. He shouted in terror, "Phoenix Queen, save me! How dare you!" A majestic voice sounded with a hint of anger. Then, a purple ray of light shone from the bright moon. It flew over like a meteor and hit the head of the great Devil King's spear. Hiss! The souls of all the people in the city palpitated. If the great Demon King's spear had made them feel like a spear of destruction, then this beam of light had made them feel like a flying rock. It was terrifying to the extreme. Countless people were thinking, what kind of terrifying power would be produced when the spear and the flowing light collided? Would the entire primal chaos city be turned to dust? Would all of them be blown to death? They were thinking too much. The spear brought with it an aura that seemed to be able to destroy everything as it stabbed forward. The stream of light flew over and struck the spear. However, there was no explosion as everyone had expected. In fact, there was not even a very strong spatial fluctuation. Bang! There was only a dull sound, and the stream of light was directly annihilated. The long spear continued to stab forward, stabbing Yun Shueishue like lightning. Then, half of Yun Shueishue's body exploded into a bloody mist, leaving nothing behind. Oh, everyone in the city was petrified again. Even Lu Li was dumbfounded. The attack of the Phoenix Empress, a Third Heaven Great Emperor, was easily destroyed by the Great Demon King? The Great Demon King had killed the person the Phoenix Empress wanted to protect right in front of her. This was the biggest joke in the world. If it wasn't for the horrifying power of the flowing light, everyone would have thought that the Phoenix Empress was a fake. Countless people's eyes were filled with astonishment, followed by inexplicable fear. A dignified Third Heaven Great Emperor was slapped in the face at this moment. How furious would she be? Would she try to cover up what happened today and wipe out everyone in the city by force? Chueshua, an elder of the Yun family, howled in grief. The rest of the powerful warriors of the Yun family were grieving. Yun Chueshua was the strongest warrior in Saint Origin Palace. She represented the hope of Saint Origin Palace's rise, and she was the towering tree that supported the entire Yun family. Now this tree had fallen. The Great Demon King slowly withdrew the Devil King's spear. She still didn't look at the Phoenix Empress, as if she didn't exist. She looked at the people of Yun family indifferently and said, "This is what Yun Chueshua asked for. If any of you in the Yun family is dissatisfied, come and find me." In the future? Countless people were stunned again. This Great Demon King actually treated the Phoenix Empress as if she didn't exist. Was she sure that she could live past today? Or was she absolutely confident that she could defeat the Phoenix Empress? Even if she could defeat the Phoenix Empress's divine clone, wouldn't she send someone to the lower world? Once a Third Heaven expert descended to the lower world, there would be a reign of terror in the second heaven. The Phoenix Empress didn't attack again. Instead, a puzzled voice was heard, "Who are you?" "It doesn't matter who I am." The Great Demon King moved her body and said coldly to the Phoenix Empress, "You are just a divine clone. The second heaven has its own heaven and earth law. You can't exert too much of your strength. Even if you descend to the lower world, you will still be suppressed. So, don't come here to humiliate yourself. Go back. You can't interfere in the matters here." Everyone was petrified for the third time. The Great Demon King was too ferocious. She was a Third Heaven Great Sovereign. Even if she was just an ordinary Third Heaven expert, no one would dare to underestimate her. Did she really think that she was invincible in the second heaven and could suppress all the experts in the third heaven? Is that so? The Phoenix Empress' voice turned cold. Then, she said, a figure has emerged in a small second heaven. Let me see what makes you so arrogant. Buzzing, the purple moon above the sea suddenly shone in a purple light. Following that, the black light from all sides swarmed toward the purple moon. From the purple moon came out a surge of terrifying energy that made everyone's soul tremble. This power, even Luli gasped. The purple moon kept on absorbing the black light. The sky was getting brighter. But the energy in the purple moon was getting more and more horrifying. Luli felt that if the purple moon were to explode, the entire island of chaos would cease to exist. If you want to see it, then I will show you. The Great Demon King's voice was still cold and calm. She flew up and stood in midair. She didn't do anything else. Just like before, she stabbed forward with her spear. Swish, the void trembled and ripples spread out. The entire world disappeared. The only thing left in everyone's mind was that invincible spear that came from the void. The world froze at this moment. The only thing left was the spear that was moving forward slowly. The spear reached the purple moon in an instant and went in gently. Pop, like a bubble, the spear pierced through the purple moon. The entire purple moon was torn into pieces. Along with the purple moon, the slim figure under the purple moon also collapsed. The entire world was silent. The spear disappeared, the purple moon disappeared, the avatar of the Phoenix Empress disappeared. The sky returned to peace and the sea calmed down. Everything was the same as before. It was as if the avatar of the Phoenix Empress had never been here. Silence, absolute silence. The only thing everyone could hear was their own heartbeat, as well as some slightly hurried breathing. In everyone's mind, The image of that domineering spear and the collapse of the purple moon were still lingering. This scene would probably become eternal, forever engraved in the hearts of the people in the city. Chapter 2089. It was quiet for the time for half an incense stick to burn. Only when the demon master moved did they make a sound. After the demon lord shattered the avatar of Phoenix Queen, he put away his spear. Then, he looked around to the many powerful warriors and said, "Let's call it a day. Go back to your own business. The rules I set are still in effect. In the next 100 years, warriors over 1,000 years old are not allowed to use force against Lu Li. Warriors under 1,000 years old are allowed to do as they please, even after 100 years. Also, my principle is that I will not offend those who do not offend me. As long as you don't come to the Omen Island, I will not interfere in the matters of the second heaven." With that said, the Asmodean lord dashed to Lu Li and put him into an interspatial artifact. She dashed into the manor again, and took Axe Demon Gon Lin and Feng Yima with her. With a wave of her hand, she opened the domain gate, and her body rushed into the domain gate. How come the demon master could open the space gate without the help of divine patterns? What was more, Lu Li and the Axe Demon were badly injured. Would they die on the way? Nobody cared about these questions. After what had happened, they wouldn't be surprised even if the demon master could teleport back to the Omen Island today. Everyone had been shocked to the point of numbness. What had happened today had surpassed their lifetime of knowledge and experience. It had toppled their understanding. Many people were still wondering how the Phoenix Empress avatar could be dispersed so easily. Also, was the demon master not afraid that Phoenix Empress would send someone down? If so many powerful warriors of the third heaven came down, the Omen Island would be barren. "Let's go!" A progenitor warrior of the Yun family shouted in grief and indignation. He flew over and put away Yun Chueshue's blood-stained sleeve. He was going to build a cenotaph when he got back. The demon master was gone. It was pointless for them to stay here. They were scared as well. They didn't dare to do anything, fearing that the demon master would destroy the Saint Origin Hall in a fit of rage. Yun family opened the space gate and all of them rushed in, disappearing from the island of chaos. With the Yun family gone, it was pointless for the Fu family and the Black Flame Hall of the Dragon race to stay. They were here for Lu Li. Now that Lu Li was taken away by the demon master, what could they do here? What was more, even if Lu Li were here, they wouldn't have the courage to touch him. Would they offend the great demon king because of this? "Let's go back." Tang Dao thought for a moment, then gritted his teeth and shouted. The youth from the Eastern Devil Palace was still in the city. However, after what happened just now, Tang Dao did not dare to act recklessly. He was afraid that if he did something wrong, the Tang family would be consigned to eternal damnation. The death of Tongning did not shake the foundation of the Tang family. But, if they did something wrong and offended someone they couldn't afford to offend, the Tang family could be destroyed. The Tang clan's people had all left, and the Chongyang Palace's people didn't dare to stay either. In less than an hour, the Six Powers people had all left. The remaining martial artists who had come to watch the show all teleported away. Who would dare to stay on Chaos Island in such a situation? Sigh. The huge primal Chaos City was bustling just moments ago, but in just a short while, it became empty. Only the 5 elders and a few thousand soldiers were left. The 5 elders looked at each other, and the corners of their mouths turned bitter. The Genius Challenge tournament was not over yet. There were still a few more matches to choose the top 5 and number 1. Now that all the contestants had left, there were only 5 of the 36 elders left. They didn't know what to do next. Besides, the Phoenix Empress Divine Clone had collapsed here. Would the Phoenix Empress send martial experts to the lower domain after this? Would they come to Chaos Island? Would they kill everyone on Chaos Island to regain the Phoenix Empress dignity? No one knew. But since the 5 of them stayed, they naturally treated Chaos Island as their home. Of course, they wouldn't leave now. They just sent people to clean up the battlefield and waited quietly. It was just a genius arena battle, but it had caused a huge commotion. The news spread across the entire second heaven in just a few days. The few battles were also vividly reported. The entire second heaven was boiling. All the martial artists in all the cities were talking about it. Yun Chueshua reached the 4th tribulation realm. Yin Qingxi, the number 1 on the genius roll, fought with Yun Chueshua for hundreds of rounds. The Azura old man appeared and suppressed Yun Chueshua. The demon lord showed up and injured Yun Chueshua in one move. Then, she killed him. The Phoenix Empress, the 3rd heaven's divine clone, went to the lower domain but was shattered by the demon lord's spear. There were so many pieces of news. Any one of them could cause a sensation at the second heaven. But all of them happened at the same time. How much of a sensation would it be? Lu Li, who had caused so many events, was also the center of attention. The demon lord even set down a rule for Lu Li. Warriors over 1,000 years old could not attack him for 100 years. Other than that, he could do whatever he wanted. At the moment, the demon lord was regarded as invincible in the second heaven. She was the master of the second heaven. The rule she set down was no different from an imperial edict. More people were worried that the Phoenix Empress would fly into a rage. Would she send powerful warriors to the second heaven? Would she go to the lower domain in person? Once the powerful warriors of the 3rd heaven went to the lower domain, millions of warriors of the second heaven would die and the sky would be dyed red with blood. When the news reached the Omen Island, the entire Omen Island cheered, especially the subordinates of the demon lord and the island warriors. Their faces glowed with pride. Of course, some were worried about the revenge from the Phoenix Empress. After all, she was a powerful warrior of the 3rd heaven. How could she accept that she was humiliated by the demon lord? Lu Li had no idea what was going on in the outside world. He had passed out while he was crossing the space gate. If it were someone else carrying him across the space gate, he would have died right away. But the demon lord released a shield that only knocked Lu Li out. The axe demon passed out as well. The demon lord brought them back to the Omen City, and left Lu Li and the axe demon to Blade to take care of. The axe demon woke up after 3 days, but Lu Li had been in a coma for half a month. He was too weak. One of his hands was minced and the flesh on his legs was cut off. More importantly, his pellet was destroyed. If it were someone else, they would have died a long time ago. Lu Li's physical body was strong so he could survive. The Blade Demon gave Lu Li the best elixirs. In half a month, not only was Lu Li's wounds healed, but his arms grew back. That being said, the pellet was destroyed. The Blade Demon could not do anything about it. Lu Li had to rebuild it. When Lu Li woke up, he did not open his eyes. Instead, he lay on the bed for 4 hours. He was too weak and his life source was hurt. Lu Li, you are awake. When Lu Li opened his eyes, he saw the axe demon sitting on the side with his legs crossed. Lu Li sat up at once, cupped his fists and said, "Lord Axe Demon, you are injured as well. Why are you here to protect me? My wounds are all healed." The axe demon waved his hand and said, "You don't have to say anything. Take some time to recover. When you feel better, come with me to see the demon lord." Okay. Lu Li sat with his legs crossed, took out some elixirs and swallowed them. He was about to cultivate when he realized his pellet was broken and there was no divine energy left in him. Chapter 2090. The body was the root, the soul was the origin, and divine energy was the source. Even though Lu Li was on the path of a supreme immortal body, divine energy was still important. At the very least, without divine energy, that piece of metal could not be used. There was also the matter of flying. Without dragon wings and divine energy, no matter how strong his body was, he could not fly for a long time. Without divine energy, the Slayer's ghost cut could not be released. Without divine energy, many things would be inconvenient and he would be weakened as well. The Asmodean was waiting to summon him. Luli did not overthink and focused on healing. He consumed some top-level pellets and recovered for half a day. Luli felt better. It would take him a long time to recover, but he could move now. Luli got up and moved around. Axe Demon took Luli into the castle and teleported to the island. Outside the cabin, Luli saw the chubby girl again. When she saw Luli, she threw him 2 more fruit. Axe Demon caught them with one hand. Unsurprisingly, Luli was hit by the fruit again. This time, he was hit in the face. His face was covered in colorful flowers. It was an ugly sight. "Princess," Axe Demon said with a bitter smile. The little girl curled her lips and said, "You're not interesting at all, you're too weak." Luli pouted but said nothing. He took out a handkerchief to wipe his face. The girl flew away. Axe Demon glanced at Luli and brought him into the garden behind the wooden house. It was the same pavilion with flowers. The Asmodean was sitting on a cattail hassock with a book in one hand and a string of Buddhist beads in the other. Just like before, Luli had no memory of the face. It was as if he could not see it clearly. "Lord!" Axe Demon forced a smile again. He bowed and said, "Lord, you have kept me in the dark for a long time." The Asmodean did not say much to Axe Demon. He waved his hand and said, "You are still too weak. Go back and cultivate. Next time, don't embarrass me. Luli, stay." "Yes." Axe Demon bowed and left. Only Luli and the Asmodean were left. Luli was embarrassed. He did not know what to say. He bowed and said, "Lord." Buzz, the great demon king's face flashed as a face appeared. It was Miss Yi's face. Her majesty disappeared, and she turned back into the quirky girl. She looked at Luli and said, "Luli, this is not like you. Why are you so reserved?" Luli forced a smile again. He cupped his fists and said, "Lord, I did not know who you were, so I have offended you sometimes. Please forgive me." "There's no need for that." The great demon king waved his hand and said, "Just treat me as Miss E. There's no need to treat me as the great demon king. You can treat me like before." That being said, Luli didn't have the courage to do so. He forced a smile and asked after a pause, "Lord, do you think it is possible?" If he didn't know the identity of the great demon king, Luli could have continued to be good friends with Lady E. However, now that Luli had learned the identity of the Asmodean Lord and witnessed the power of the unparalleled hegemon, it was almost impossible for Luli to continue to date the Asmodean Lord as Lady E. "Alright." The Asmodean Lord sighed and said, "The identity of Lady E is gone. I will not lie to you. Actually, I have another identity which you have seen before." "Another identity?" Luli frowned, and then his pupils suddenly shrank. He cried out in surprise, "Could it be that Fairy Tianyun is also one of your clones?" "Yes." The Asmodean Lord nodded and said, "I cultivate a strange Taoist skill that requires me to experience different kinds of lives. Therefore, I have disguised many identities to experience different kinds of lives and to learn different ways of life. I don't mean to hide it. But once my identity is exposed, the existence of my clone will be meaningless." Luli didn't expect that the Asmodean Lord, Fairy Tianyun and Lady E were the same person. No wonder Fairy Tianyun was so powerful. No wonder nobody at the Cloud Mountain had seen Fairy Tianyun in person. Even Patriarch Chen had only seen a shadow of Fairy Tianyun. Disguising different identities, experiencing different lives and learning different ways, Luli vaguely understood. Maybe this was why the Asmodean Lord could be so powerful. Everyone's life was different. The people they met and the things they encountered were different. Their understanding of the way of life was different as well. When several clones gathered together, their understanding of the way of life would be stronger. Naturally, their combat abilities would be enhanced faster. Maybe the Asmodean Lord had many identities? Like a child from a poor family? For example, a dying old woman or a shrew in the marketplace. To experience a changing life, to see countless things in the world, and to learn more about the essence of heaven and earth. The more Luli thought about it, the more he felt the Asmodean Lord's skill was powerful. There must be a reason why the Asmodean Lord could be the best at the second heaven. But Luli remembered Phoenix Empress and couldn't help but ask, "Lord, will there be any problems at the third heaven?" "Don't worry about that." The Asmodean Lord waved her hand and her voice became cold. The identity of Lady E was gone. She seemed to have regained her nature as the Asmodean Lord. She said, "The second heaven has its own rules of heaven and earth. Powerful warriors cannot come here easily. Otherwise, their power will cause the universe to collapse. If they can come here with their powers suppressed, then I can kill them easily." Is that so? Luli remembered the mortal world. In the old days, when powerful warriors from the divinity came to the mortal world, average warriors wouldn't dare to come here at will. Otherwise, their power would cause the universe to collapse. He heaved a sigh of relief in his heart, but he was still worried and wanted to say something. He was about to say something when the Asmodean Lord interrupted him in an overbearing manner. "I have said that you don't have to worry about these things. You should mind your own business. Your elixir is gone and you need to get it back. If you can't do it well, you will be stuck here for the rest of your life." Luli's heart skipped a beat. He cupped his fists and said, "Please enlighten me, Asmodean Lord. Don't you have a red blood orchid?" The Asmodean Lord glanced at Luli's interspatial ring and said, "Consume this elixir. Also, I will teach you a secret method. If you are lucky, the elixir you can make will not affect your cultivation in the future." "Thank you, Lord." Luli was overjoyed. Since the Asmodean Lord had said so, then it must be okay. If he could make another perfect elixir, then there would be hope for him to make more breakthroughs in the future. "Don't thank me so soon," the Asmodean Lord said coldly. "I am helping you on conditions." The Asmodean Lord's attitude made Luli feel he was talking to Fairy Tianyun. That being said, Luli was not unhappy at all. The Asmodean Lord had done him a great favor. Luli wouldn't say anything even if the Asmodean Lord asked him to go through mountains of blades and seas of fire. Luli cupped his fists and said, "Lord, please tell me. In the future, when you are as powerful as the peak of the third tribulation, go to the third heaven and get me a scroll." The Asmodean Lord went straight to the point and added, "For some reason, this body of mine cannot go to the third heaven. So, I need you to go there for me." An ancient scroll? Chapter 2091. What? You don't like it? Seeing that Luli was hesitating, the Demon Lord raised his eyebrows and asked. Luli bowed at once and said, "No, I am indebted to you. I will do anything for you. Whenever you tell me to go, I will go to the third heaven at once." Luli's hesitation was not because he was afraid of going to the third heaven. He was a man who could clearly distinguish between kindness and hatred. He would return every favor with every drop of water. Therefore, he would go to the third heaven without any hesitation even if he was asked to kill the Phoenix Empress, let alone to get a scroll. He was hesitating because the other identity of the Demon Lord, Fairy Tianyun, once asked him to do something, to kill Yun Kaiwe. He had thought that Fairy Tianyun and Yun Kaiwe were enemies, but that was not possible. Fairy Tianyun was the Demon Lord. She was so powerful that she could kill Yun Chueshue in one move. How could she have anything to do with Yun Kaiwe? Not even Yun Chueshue could make the Demon Lord hate her, let alone Yun Kaiwe. If so, why did the Demon Lord ask him to kill Yun Kaiwe? Now, he was asked to go to the third heaven to get a scroll? Was it true that she could not go to the third heaven? Even if he could not, Axe Demon and Blade Demon could. Axe Demon was at the peak of the third tribulation, and not just any warrior. Wouldn't it be better for Axe Demon to go? Luli was still far from the peak of the third tribulation. He still could not figure it out after a while. But soon, the Demon Lord gave him an answer which enlightened Luli. The Demon Lord said, "The location of the scroll must have something to do with you. It is in the Dragon Rebel Valley." Dragon Rebel Valley. Luli's pupils contracted when he heard the name. It seemed that the Demon Lord had seen through all his secrets. The Demon Lord said, "The third heaven is dangerous. If you cannot reach the peak of the third tribulation, you will die easily. Therefore, you must reach the peak of the third tribulation before you can go there. When you get to the Dragon Rebel Valley, you don't have to fight with the people there. I'll give you a treasure and you can exchange it with them." Okay. Luli was relieved. The Dragon Rebel Valley was where the Lu Ling family was. He would be in a dilemma if he went to the Lu Ling family to get the scroll. Peak of the third tribulation, good. Luli was excited. He was going to the Dragon Rebel Valley to find Lu Ling. Now, the two things had become one. His heart became eager. He couldn't wait to reach the peak of the third tribulation tomorrow. "Sir, can I ask a question?" Luli couldn't help but ask after some thoughts. Maybe it was because the Demon of Axe had disguised himself as Lady E that Luli had become bolder. If it were the Axe Demon or the others, he wouldn't have dared to ask. The Demon Queen looked at Luli as if she could read his mind. She said, "Do you want to know why I asked you to kill Yun Kaiwe?" Luli nodded and said, "Lord, you are so smart. The reason is very simple. It's because Yun Kaiwe did something evil." As the great Demon King narrated, his eyes also revealed a trace of killing intent. "I disguised an identity before, and that identity's parents were killed by Yun Kaiwe. You also know that Yun Kaiwe is a junior after all, and it is inconvenient for me and Axe Demon to kill him, so you can openly kill him in the Genius Arena battle. I didn't expect that Yun Shueishue would attack the Island of Chaos for Yun Kaiwe. If Yun Shueishue didn't show up, I wouldn't have shown up either." "I see." Luli understood now. The Demon Queen did disguise herself for many times and went to experience life. He admired the Demon Queen's character as well. She didn't use her power to oppress others or bully the weak. She would not offend others if they didn't offend her. "After you finish the Immortal Core, you can go back to the Divinity and have a look." The Demon Queen's next words made Luli tremble. The Demon Queen said, "After the battle at the Island of Chaos, I don't think any other forces will dare to do anything to you. Few warriors under 1,000 years old are at the peak of the third tribulation. You can deal with average warriors, right? If you are worried, you can ask the Axe Demon to go with you and relocate your family and people in the Divinity to the Island of Chaos. The Island of Chaos is absolutely safe. Not even Phoenix Queen can hurt anyone here if she comes down in person." "Thank you, my lord." Luli was overjoyed. He bowed deeply. With the Demon Queen's words, Luli had nothing to worry about. The biggest obstacle in his heart was gone. He could relax completely. Swish. The Demon Queen threw him a book, waved her hand and said, "You can go now. Concentrate on the Immortal Core. You can live in the Island of Chaos or go back to Mount Tianyun. But I may not go there again." "Yes." Luli bowed and left. His steps were light. It didn't matter where he lived. The important thing was, he could go back to the Divinity. This was the best news for him, and it was also the thing that made him the happiest. Alas, after Luli left, the Demon Queen suddenly heaved a sigh. The look in her eyes grew solemn. After a moment of silence, she sighed and said, "Was it right or wrong to involve him in a dispute? If I let it go, the rest of his life would be peaceful and happy. If he is involved in a dispute, his future will be very difficult. He might even lose his life for no reason." But soon, the Demon Queen became determined. She said, 7 tribulation physique is hard to find. It is rare to find one. I cannot give it up. Never mind. Luli, since you are a 7 tribulation physique, your life is destined to be full of ups and downs. Either you rise to the highest heaven or you sink into oblivion forever. Back to the divinity. I need to go back to the divinity. Luli teleported out from the island. Axe Demon arranged for someone to take him back to his residence. He was very restless. He paced up and down in his room, excited. He had no choice but to come to the second heaven. He had been in the dark about the divinity all these years and knew nothing. He had been living a hard life. He seldom slept because he often dreamed of his family and clansmen. He had been working hard to become stronger, hoping that one day he could fight against the Hall of Black Flame and go back to the divinity with peace of mind. However, as time went by, he had more and more enemies, and he was further away from home. He didn't expect that the Demon Queen would tell him that he could go home. How could he not be excited and happy? He didn't think about this before. Now that he thought about it, he realized that the Demon Queen was telling the truth. At the Chaos Island, the Demon Queen had set up a rule. Given her prestige, the Yun family wouldn't dare to touch him even if he was standing at the gate of the Saint Origin Palace. Also, he had asked Old Azura to protect his family and clansmen. Old Azura was at the 4th Tribulation Realm, and he was more powerful than Yun Chueshu. Nobody dared to mess with him. Therefore, even if he could teleport back to the divinity openly, who would dare to kill him? Who would dare to mess around in the divinity? Calm down, calm down. Luli took a few deep breaths to calm himself down. To go back, he must form a divine core and restore his abilities to the peak. What if someone under 1,000 years old assassinated him? 3 months. Chapter 2092. Condensing the divine pellet was not difficult. At this realm, broken limbs could be recovered easily. Therefore, condensing the divine pellet was not complicated. The problem was that everyone's divine pellet had been cultivated for a long time. The divine pellet had been with the warrior for a long time. The divine pellet had been perfectly integrated with the body. Everyone's body was a natural formation. Missing a corner was not a big deal as long as it was filled. That being said, divine energy was the source of a warrior's strength. It was almost the core of the formation. When the core of a formation was destroyed, it would be difficult to restore it. Even if a new core could be built, would it be a perfect fit for the formation? The answer was no. The difficulty in condensing the divine pellet was how to make the new divine pellet fit perfectly with the body. In this way, the improvement of abilities would not be affected. Otherwise, if the divine pellet and the divine pellet were not compatible, the formation in the body would be out of sync. Luli was holding a book in his hand. It was given to him by the Asmodean to condense the divine pellet. The book was abstruse. It took Luli 3 days to understand. The book was used to condense the divine pellet, or to make larger and more powerful divine pellet. Maybe, the book was created to condense more mysterious divine pellet. The divine pellet was also designed with divine patterns. Only by carving the divine patterns in the divine pellet could the divine patterns be stronger. Luli understood almost everything except for the divine glyph. But Luli had Blood Fairy. He was telling her to study the divine patterns. In the old days, Luli might be reluctant. After all, he was carving divine patterns in his body. But now, he had 2 kinds of divine patterns in his body. One was the lightning gathering formation, and the other was the trace of Tao. Therefore, he was not reluctant. Instead, he was looking forward to it. Only now did he understand that a powerful cultivator's body was a supreme treasure. Inscribing divine runes on their bodies would allow their bodies to become stronger and more powerful, allowing them to unleash even more innate abilities. The human body was a natural formation. Inscribing some divine imprints would make the formation more powerful, more profound, and more powerful. While Blood Fairy was working on the divine patterns, Luli was not in a hurry. He studied the book patiently. Condensing the divine pellet was crucial. He could not afford to make any mistake. Otherwise, if he made a flawed divine pellet, his future cultivation would be affected. "All right, master." 3 days later, Blood Fairy's voice came to Luli's mind. Over the years, Blood Fairy had been studying divine glyph. Her understanding of divine glyphs was improving by leaps and bounds. "All right." When Blood Fairy passed on her understanding of the divine inscriptions to Luli, he digested it and felt more confident. However, he didn't immediately condense it. Instead, he went into seclusion to comprehend the ancient scripture. 5 days, 10 days, 13 days. Finally, Luli came out from cultivation. He was eager to try as well. He had completely comprehended this ancient scripture, and he was 70 to 80% sure that he would succeed. He walked out of the castle and told the guards and maids outside that no one was allowed to enter. Condensing the divine pellet was extremely important. It could not be disturbed, otherwise something big would happen. Luli took a shower and fell asleep on the bed. He was still weak and needed sleep to relax his mind and body. Luli slept for a whole day. He dreamed of many people. He dreamed that he was hunted by Phoenix Queen, he dreamed that he went to the third heaven, and he dreamed that he went back to the divinity. When he woke up, he adjusted his mind and began to condense the divine pellet. He had prepared many materials for the divine pellet, but the most important one was the blood orchid he obtained from the Palace of Immortals. First, he swallowed a medicinal pill. This was a medicinal pill for calming his mind and allowing his body to relax. Then, he began to cultivate his divine power. He took some divine liquid. Divine energy surged out from his meridians. He mobilized divine energy to the area around the divine pellet and began to nourish the flesh. The divine pellet was shattered. Naturally, the flesh there was injured. Though his physical injuries had recovered, there would inevitably be some hidden ailments in the divine pellet. Also, he took another kind of herb to transfer the energy to the divine pellet to nourish the flesh there. 3 days later, Luli felt it was time. He took out the blood orchid. It was an orchid, but it looked like a blood-red butterfly. When Luli took it out, the orchid was about to fly away. Luli grabbed the blood orchid and used divine energy to dissolve it bit by bit. He had not cultivated enough divine energy yet. He had to take some more divine liquid to accumulate divine energy. As the blood orchid was dissolved bit by bit, strands of blood-red energy entered Luli's body. He was tense up. There was only one blood orchid, which was the easiest to condense into a divine pellet. If he failed this time, he would not even know where to find more blood orchids. Luli calmed himself down and poured the energy from the blood orchid into the divine pellet. Then, he began to condense the divine pellet. When he became an immortal, he had condensed the divine pellet once. Therefore, he was experienced and did not make any mistakes. He was extremely nervous. Bit by bit, he began to condense the divine pellet. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead and back. Halfway through the process, Luli suddenly noticed a problem. There was still a lot of energy left in the blood orchid. At this rate, the divine pellet would be condensed and only a small part of the blood orchid's energy would be used up. What to do? The blood orchid was precious. Now that he had consumed it, the rest would be useless. At this rate, a lot of energy from the blood orchid would be wasted. But what else could he do? Could it be that he had condensed 2 divine elixirs? Can I make the divine pellet bigger? Luli had an idea. 2 divine pellets would not work. But he could make the divine pellet bigger. Didn't he cultivate to make the divine pellet bigger? Let's see. Luli made up his mind. He decided to take a gamble. If he could condense the divine pellet, It might save him years of cultivation. When the divine pellet was bigger, it could store more divine energy. Maybe when he used the divine metal, it would be more powerful. He had only been cultivating for a short time, so the divine pellet was not big and the divine energy stored in it was limited. Every time he used the divine metal, all the divine energy in the divine pellet would be drained. He could tell that the divine metal was not at its peak. If he had a little more divine power, perhaps the power of the godly metal would increase by quite a bit. Of course, there was a risk in condensing the divine pellet like this. If the divine pellet was not compatible with his body, then his cultivation would be affected. His divine energy might be disrupted and he might explode. Luli did not have much time to think. It had always been his character, swift and decisive. Now that he had made up his mind, he would act first. If something went wrong, he could just shatter the divine pellet again and go to find more blood orchid. 1 hour, 2 hours, 6 hours. Luli's expressions changed. He shouted to himself, "No, something is wrong. The divine pellet is too big. It is not compatible with my body. The energy of the blood orchid is going to go wild." Chapter 2093. At this critical moment, Luli became calm. He thought quickly, trying to come up with a solution. Soon, he realized that there were only 2 ways to go. The first was to force the energy out of the blood orchid, which would be a waste of effort. But at the same time, he would not be injured, nor would he die. The second option was to force the process and find a way to control the energy so that the pellet could be formed as soon as possible to stabilize the energy. The risk was high. What was more, the pellet could be useless and not compatible with his body at all. "Blood Fairy, help me with the divine pattern." Luli decided to take a gamble. After all, if the pellet was useless, he could just shatter it later. He believed in his strong body. Even if the pellet were to explode, he would not die. At worst, he would be wounded. To stabilize the energy and form the pellet, the only way was to engrave the divine pattern at once. Luli wanted to do it himself. However, he had to control the chaotic energy. Therefore, he had to ask Blood Fairy for help. Bloodvine's tentacle reached into Luli's body and into the pellet. Bloodvine worked with Luli to engrave the divine pattern in the incomplete pellet. Since Blood Fairy was the one who studied the divine patterns, it was easier for her to do it. Luli tried his best to control the chaotic energy. Blood Fairy quickly began to engrave the divine pattern. In the time for dozens of breaths, Blood Fairy was done. The pellet began to take shape. But Blood Fairy did not take back her tentacle. She said to Luli, "Master, your pellet is not good enough. It cannot resonate with the human formation." The human body is resisting, Luli understood. The human body formation was a perfect formation. Suddenly, a new formation was built inside the human body formation, which was not compatible with the human body formation. How could the human body formation not resist? "Master, you must think of a way to integrate the divine pattern in the pellet with the human body formation. Otherwise, the pellet will be useless," Blood Fairy said again. Luli had an idea. His eyes became misty as he murmured, "Integrate? Integrate. Trace of the Great Path." Luli thought of something. He had the trace of the Great Tao in his body. If he could integrate the patterns in the pellet with the trace of the Great Tao, and become a part of the trace of the Great Tao, his body would not resist. Luli shared his thoughts with Blood Fairy. In terms of divine inscriptions, Blood Fairy was much better than Luli. He needed her help. Not a bad idea. Blood Fairy fell into deep thought. After a dozen breaths of time, she transmitted, "Master, I can try, but I might fail. Don't worry, just try." The situation was already like this. How bad could it get? Luli checked his body and asked Blood Fairy to do it. Blood Fairy once again began to make arrangements within her body. She did not alter the patterns within her divine core, nor did she touch the marks of the Great Path. Instead, he set up a few other divine runes in an attempt to build a bridge between the divine elixir and the marks of the Great Path, connecting the marks of the Great Path to the divine elixir. The divine runes she set up were strange. It was as if she was setting up threads like the tiny blood vessels in the body. Blood Fairy spent 6 to 8 hours. She did not put on too many divine runes, only 12. She built up 12 bridges between the divine elixir and the marks of the Great Path. Buzzing, when the 12 divine runes were finished, Luli felt that the more than 3,000 marks of the Great Path had a connection with the divine elixir. It was as if the divine elixir was an independent entity. Now it had become a part of the marks of the Great Path. Nice. Luli sensed it. He was thrilled. He could feel that the divine elixir had become a part of his body, just like an arm or a leg. The divine elixir had completely integrated with his body. Blood Fairy, you have done a great job. Luli checked again to make sure that the divine elixir was fine. He was overjoyed and sent a message to Blood Fairy. Blood Fairy replied, Master, you have the marks of the Great Path in your body. Otherwise, no matter how hard you try, the divine elixir and your body will not be integrated. Okay. Luli nodded. Traces of the Great Path were engraved in the body. They were a part of the body. The fusion of the divine core and the great Tao scar was the fusion of the divine core and the great Tao scar. If he didn't have the great Tao scar, his divine elixir would definitely be wasted. After a moment of excitement, Luli went into closed-door cultivation again to stabilize the pellet. The pellet had taken shape, but he didn't know if it would be useful or if there would be any problems in the future. He needed some time to nurture it. 5 days later, Luli opened his eyes. Even though he was tired, he could not hide the joy on his face. After a few days of observation, there were no problems with the divine elixir for the time being. He had also cultivated for a few days, and the divine elixir had accumulated a lot of divine power. He even tried to circulate his god power, but there were no problems. Now, he just had to see if there would be any problems with his god elixir after his god power was fully cultivated. Also, when he released a powerful attack, a large amount of divine power would surge out. Would it cause his divine core to collapse? Luli was not in a hurry. He didn't stop cultivating either. He rested for a while and then went back to cultivating. At the same time, he nurtured the pellet. The size of the pellet was twice as large as before, and the amount of divine energy it could store was twice as much. This was a pellet that could only be possessed by warriors at the later stage of the third tribulation. The amount of divine energy it could store was enormous. Half a month later, Luli stopped cultivating. He consumed a lot of divine liquid and filled up the divine energy in the pellet. Nothing went wrong. He stood up and went to the Hall of Martial Arts. He released dozens of attacks with no problems. Rustle, 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 from outside came some footsteps. Demon of Axe walked in. Seeing that Luli was attacking, Demon of Axe's eyes glowed and asked, Luli, is your pellet ready? Luli bowed to Demon of Axe and replied, Not yet. Lord Demon of Axe, can you take a look? Okay. Demon of Axe walked over, grabbed Luli's hand and poured some divine energy into Luli's body. Then, the divine energy moved around in Luli's pellet. Luli was taken aback by Demon of Axe's expression. He asked, What is it? Lord Demon of Axe, is there something wrong with my pellet? No. Demon of Axe was even more surprised. He asked in surprise, Your pellet is in perfect harmony, and it is bigger than before. How did you do it? Also, I can feel that there are some strange patterns in your body. Did you engrave them yourself? Luli could not tell Demon of Axe about the marks of the great Tao. He nodded with a smile and said, Yes, I have some knowledge about the patterns. Therefore, I have built some in my body. It is because of these patterns that the pellet can be in perfect harmony. Good. Demon of Axe nodded and said, "This is a blessing in disguise for you. This pellet can save you 100 years of cultivation. Do it again. I will check your divine energy with psychic power." Luli tried several times. The hall was protected by the divine glyphs so it wouldn't be destroyed. Luli did it several times. Demon of Axe sensed it and nodded. The divine energy is stable. Congratulations, Luli. Good. Chapter 2094. The divinity was not peaceful recently. Several years after Luli's departure, the divinity was peaceful. The divinity was devastated after the demons went on a rampage. In addition, Luli killed many people. The divinity had fewer warriors and powerful warriors. Before Luli left, he gave Ling Qinyan some powerful relic. The forces in the divinity did not dare to provoke the land of Yuyan. Both sides lived in harmony. However, over the past year, the divinity was not peaceful. The three forces in the divinity had become high-profile for some unknown reason. Many powerful warriors of the younger generation emerged as well. There were some geniuses among them with strong abilities. Luli had not been in the second heaven for a long time, less than 10 years. Ling Qinyan and Pan Yuqin thought the divinity would have at least 100 years of peace. However, in such a short period of time, something strange happened. Some powerful warriors from the upper universe must have come down. In the city of Yen, Pan Yuqin was holding a cup of tea. She looked awful. Years had passed, but her and Ling Qinyan's appearances had not changed. They were still as beautiful as before. Holding a beast in her arms, Ling Qinyan frowned. She shook her head and said, "I don't think it is a warrior of the second heaven, or else he would have come and killed us. The Shangqing Palace has not contacted us for years. Something must have gone wrong. Since there is a problem with the Shangqing Palace, why would a Celestial Layer 2 expert have any scruples? If it is not a warrior of the second heaven that has come down, then why is this happening?" Pan Yuqin could not figure it out. Apart from the craftsman's sect, the other three forces had more powerful warriors. Some of the young ones even had their abilities improved. They had been clamoring at the border between the land of Yuyan and the divinity. "I will go to the divinity if I have to." A glint of ferocity rose in Ling Qinyan's eyes. Luli left her a relic armor and a relic weapon. Given her abilities, as long as there were no powerful warriors at the second plane, she could easily defeat the entire divinity. Report, an anxious voice suddenly rang out from outside, causing the two's hearts to sink. A team leader came in, dropped to his knees and said, "Prince of Yen and King of Pan, there is a fight at the Yao King City. Madame Shuang and Madame Ling are fighting with the future master of Spacetime Office. They are both injured." "What?" Ling Qinyan and Pan Yuqin started fighting. Ling Qinyan's eyes were filled with murderous intent. Pan Yuqin was calm and asked, "Aren't Madame Shuang and the others in Panwang City? When did you go to Yao King City?" Madame Shuang was by Xiaoshuang and Madame Ling was Jiang Qiling. Both of them were Lu Li's wives. Lu Li's family was in the Pan King City. How come he had gone to the Yao King City? "It's Master Luan." The commander explained. Zhuoqiu Gui kept insulting Lord Lu Li at the south. Young Master Luan couldn't take it anymore and went to the south. The two madams went after him and ended up fighting with Zhuoqiu Gui. If it wasn't for the fact that the elders arrived quickly, I'm afraid they would have died over there. Luan was Lu Li's adopted son. He was young and vigorous. Naturally, he could not stand it when someone insulted Lu Li. It was understandable that Jiang Qiling and Bai Xiaoshuang were worried about Luan and went after him. Good. Ling Qinyan could not hold back her anger anymore. She turned to Pan Yuqin and said, "Yuqin, you stay at the King of Yen City and take care of the overall situation. I will go to the divinity. If I don't bring back Zhuoqiu Gui's head, The space-time office will think that I am a pushover. Okay. Sister, be careful. Pan Yuqin sighed, seeing that she could not talk Ling Qinyan out of it. She mobilized many scouts to monitor the divinity. Ling Qinyan flew towards the south. Pan Yuqin's expression became serious. She had a feeling that there was some kind of conspiracy going on. This time, Ling Qinyan might be in big trouble. Ling Qinyan and Pan Yuqin were right. Something was wrong at the palace of Shangqing. 4 years ago, the master of the palace of Shangqing went to a dangerous place to explore and died in an accident. 2 great patriarchs died with the master of the palace of Shangqing. The palace of Shangqing suffered a great loss. The island was sealed 4 years ago. No one was allowed to go in or out. Many talented disciples and patriarchs of the palace of Shangqing were in closed-door cultivation. Without some powerful warriors that could support the palace of Shangqing, the seal on the island would not be opened. Today, a battleship came to the island of Shangqing. Several people were standing on the battleship, 2 young men and 4 old men. The 4 old men were at the 3rd tribulation realm, but only at the early stage. They stood behind the 2 young men like guards. What? A white-haired young man saw the several islands in front of him were all covered by shields. The young man murmured in surprise, "What's going on?" Next to the white-haired young man was an average-looking young man. He had a gentle smile on his face, making him look approachable. The young man explained with a smile, 4 years ago, the palace of Shangqing experienced a drastic change. The island has been sealed, and no one has been sent to the contest. Can I still go in? The white-haired young man frowned. He was anxious. No one else can. The seemingly amiable young man smiled and said, "But you, Luli, are here. Everything will be fine. Even when the palace of Shangqing was at its peak, they wouldn't dare to offend you, let alone now that the palace of Shangqing has been through a drastic change." That's good. The white-haired young man was Luli, and the young man next to him was Gan Lin. The 4 third tribulation realm warriors behind them were the subordinates of the Axe Demon. They were sent to protect the 2. Of course, given Lu Li's current strength and prestige, the 4 of them were just decorations. The other forces wouldn't dare to assassinate Lu Li even if they had more courage. Yun Chueshua's cenotaph had just been built, Uncle Chi. Gan Lin looked at an old man who flew out from the battleship and arrived at the shield of the island. Then, the old man patted on the shield. The shield began to ripple like water. The palace of Shangqing has sealed off the island and will not receive guests. Please go back. An old voice suddenly came. Patriarch Qi didn't leave. Instead, he shouted, "I am Qi Yu of the Axe Demon of the Omen Island. Young Master Gan Lin and Young Master Lu Li are here to visit the new master of the palace of Shangqing. Also, Young Master Lu Li wants to go back to the divinity." From the Omen Island? The old man's voice sounded serious. Then, he shouted in surprise, "Young Master Lu Li is here?" Qi Yu nodded. The shield began to tremble and a crack appeared. 5 old men flew out and stared at Lu Li. "Ha ha, Lu Li, you are quite famous now." Gan Lin grinned and said to Lu Li. He was not surprised that the palace of Shangqing knew about Lu Li. Even though the island was sealed off, the palace of Shangqing must know what was going on outside. What if several forces attacked the palace of Shangqing together? They wouldn't even know if they were destroyed. The 5 old men flew over and stood in front of Lu Li. A red-haired old man cupped his fists and said, "The 5 of us are patriarchs of the palace of Shangqing. I am Lin Zhanghong. Nice to meet you, Young Master Lu, Young Master Gan, and friends." Lu Li touched his nose. He remembered that when he came to the second heaven from the divinity, he was almost killed by a commander of the palace of Shangqing. Looking at the current situation, he put on a sarcastic smile. This was the reality of the world. Without power, you would only be a fish on the chopping board. Once you had power and prestige, the big shots that you used to think of as big shots would bow and scrape in front of you. Of course, He knew very well that the reason why the patriarchs of the palace of Shangqing respected him was because of the Demon King. Two of the master and great patriarch of the palace of Shangqing were dead, but there must be other old men who were still alive. They were not afraid that he would destroy the palace of Shangqing. Chapter 2095. Lu Li had come to the Shangqing Island, the largest island occupied by the Shangqing Palace. To teleport back to the divinity, they must go to the Dragon Island. That being said, the Shang Dragon Island was sealed off. To open it, the master of Shangqing Palace had to give the order in person. Therefore, Lu Li and Gan Lin had to come to the Shangqing Island first. Lu Li wanted to go directly to the Dragon Island. He was eager to go home. However, since he had come to Shangqing Island and Gan Lin had just said that he wanted to meet the new palace master of Shangqing Palace, it was naturally impossible for him to leave immediately. The group of people entered the island and teleported directly to the High Purity City from the city below to pay a visit to the High Purity Palace's palace lord, Lin Langtian. Lin Langtian was the younger brother of the previous palace lord. His combat prowess was at the peak of the Third Tribulation. However, he was just an ordinary peak of the Third Tribulation and did not have much combat prowess. He should be able to match up to the Axe Demon, albeit barely. The palaces of the Shangqing Palace were luxurious and dignified. After all, the Shangqing Palace was an old force that had existed for hundreds of thousands of years. Even though it had gone through drastic changes, its foundation was still there. Gan Lin and Lu Li dared not to underestimate it. Several patriarchs showed Lu Li and the others to the most luxurious palace. Lin Langtian must have been informed beforehand, so he was waiting in the palace. When Lu Li got in, he didn't look at Lin Langtian at first glance. Instead, he noticed a girl standing next to Lin Langtian. That woman was very beautiful and elegant. Her temperament was also rather cold, like an ice goddess. Lu Li knew this person. It was Lady Man, the goddess of the Shangqing Palace. Lady Man even went down to the mortal world and asked Lu Li to join the Shangqing Palace. But Lu Li refused. In the end, Lu Li offended her. "It's you." Lady Man didn't seem to know about Lu Li's situation. When Lu Li came in, she was surprised. Then she looked at Lin Langtian with doubt, pointed to Lu Li and asked, "Father, is this the man you summoned today?" Impudent. Lin Langtian glanced at Miss Man with some dissatisfaction and said, "Father didn't teach you how to treat a guest? These two are our Shangqing Palace's honored guests." "Honored guest?" Lady Man was shocked. Still pointing at Lu Li, she said, "He is from the divinity, a bumpkin from the lower planes." "Who is he?" Miss Man's words made the entire great hall quiet down. At this moment there was not only Lin Langtian in the great hall, but there were also more than a dozen elders from the Shangqing Palace. Although Miss Man was not aware of the matters of the outside world, but how could the group of elders not know about it? Many patriarchs looked awful. The Asmodean had set down a rule that no one under 1,000 years old could attack Lu Li. If Lu Li was enraged, he could go on a killing spree in the Shangqing Palace. Who could stop him then? One had to know that Yun Kaiyue died in Lu Li's hands. Yun Kaiyue's combat strength was recognized by the outside world to be comparable to an ordinary peak Third Tribulation expert. Smack! Lin Langtian reacted quickly. He stood up and slapped him. He glared at Miss Man and said, "Bastard! Did your father teach you all these years in vain? Apologize to young Master Lu Li now." Miss Man was stunned by the slap, although Lin Langtian did not hit her too hard, but it still made her face hurt. She looked at Lin Langtian in disbelief, wondering why her father, who had always loved her, would hit her because of Lu Li. Seeing that Miss Man didn't do anything, Lin Langtian became anxious. His expressions became stern as he shouted, "Apologize! Do you want me to expel you from the Lin family?" Maybe it was because Lin Longtian's expression was so awful that Miss Man finally came to her senses. She was scared. Her eyes were red. She looked at Lu Li and said, "Sorry, sorry, sorry." Miss Man was really stunned. She didn't know what to say. She just kept saying sorry. Lu Li looked at her red and swollen face and her wronged expression, but he didn't feel any pity for her. Of course, he didn't take it to heart. She was just a spoiled child. Wouldn't it be childish to argue with a child? He waved his hand and said, "Master Lin, you don't have to be like this. Lady Man had some misunderstanding with me. It is not a big deal." Hearing Lu Li's words, Lin Langtian was a bit embarrassed. He nodded to Lu Li and said, "I am not strict enough in disciplining her. Young Master Lu, I am sorry. Man, why don't you go?" Woo woo woo, covering her face, Lady Man ran out in tears. At the entrance of the palace, she looked back at Lu Li. Until now, he still couldn't understand why his father would be so polite to this bumpkin from the divinity. He even seemed to be in awe of him. Lady Man had a deep impression of Lu Li. If it weren't for others' dissuasion, she would have killed Lu Li. She had heard about Lu Li coming to the divinity. But because he was in closed-door cultivation and the island was sealed off by the Shangqing Palace, she didn't have the chance to learn about the outside world. Even though she was the goddess of the Shangqing Palace, the patriarchs knew that she was just a child. They wouldn't talk to her about important matters. After she left, she didn't go back to her residence. Instead, she found a leader nearby and asked, "Is that young Master Lu from the divinity?" "Yes." The leader was well informed. He nodded and said, "Back then, he was teleported here from the Dragon Island. Back then, he was almost killed by Lin Fei. I haven't seen him for several years. How come he has grown so much?" "How much?" Lady Man was confused. "Isn't he only at the second tribulation realm? How good can he be? But the warriors with him are strong. They are all at the third tribulation." "Second tribulation?" The leader curled his lips and said, "Do you know Long Shirtian and Yun Kaiwe?" "Yes, I do." Lady Man nodded. Her eyes revealed a trace of intoxication. Long Shirtian is a disciple of Long family. Yun Kaiwe is more powerful. He is the god's son of Saint Origin Palace. I heard that he had reached the third tribulation realm a few years ago. I have seen him once. He is a peerless and charming man. I think he will become the master of Saint Origin Palace in the future. "Master, he." The leader sneered and said, "He can't become the master. He is dead. So is Long Shirtian and Yun Kaiue's father, Yun Chueshu." "What?" Lady Man was shocked. She shook her head and said, "Impossible. It is possible that Long Shirtian and Yun Kaiue were killed, but how could Yun Chueshu be killed? He is the master of Saint Origin Palace." The leader pouted his lips and said, "Long Shirtian and Yun Kaiue were killed by that young master inside." "What?" Lady Man thought she misheard. She blinked her eyes and said, "Are you kidding me? How could he kill Yun Kaiue? Impossible." "It's absolutely true. Otherwise, why would your palace master be so polite to him?" The leader explained to Lady Man in a low voice. After half an hour, Lady Man felt as if she was listening to a heavenly book. A few years ago, he was just a country bumpkin in the divine world, an ant that she could pinch to death at any time. After coming to the second heaven, he could actually kill the top young master of the second heaven? And he was related to so many big shots in the divine world? This was simply a fantasy story. This country bumpkin can actually kill experts who are comparable to peak third tribulation experts? Lady Man was very talented and had the best resources, but she hadn't even broken through to the third tribulation realm. Chapter 2096. Lu Li said goodbye to Gan Lin and the others after an hour in the Shangqing Palace. Lin Langtian was very polite. He sent a patriarch to see them off and promised Luli that the Yuyan land would no longer belong to the Shangqing Palace. He would also send a formation master to the Omen Island to build a teleportation formation so that the Omen Island could be teleported to the divinity directly. In other words, the Shangqing Palace had given the Yuyan land to Luli. A lower realm's territory was nothing to High Purity Palace. The Shangqing Palace wanted to take over the entire divinity with the help of the Yuyan land. After so many years, they had failed. The Yuyan land was dispensable to the Shangqing Palace. They arrived at the Dragon Island. It was still that Commander Lin. He must have received the news and was waiting outside the teleportation formation with his men. When Luli arrived, he knelt down to greet them with great respect. "Young Master Lu." Looking at Luli, Commander Lin slapped his own face and said with shame, "I was blind and I offended young Master Lu. Please punish me severely. Get up. Arrange for us to be teleported to the divinity." Luli was eager to go home. After Lin Langtian slapped Lady Man, his resentment towards the Shangqing Palace disappeared. He was not in the mood to argue with a commander. Third Patriarch of the Shangqing Palace followed Luli into the teleportation altar. Commander Lin arranged for the teleportation altar to be activated. After a flash of white light, everyone disappeared. "But you are wrong. You should say, 'How many years will it take for me to destroy the Black Flame Hall?'" Commander Lin remembered what Luli said when he came to the Dragon Island. Commander Lin felt bitter. Back then, when Luli said this, everyone thought he was just talking nonsense and talking nonsense. Only a few years had passed. Luli didn't destroy the Black Flame Hall, but nobody would dare to kill him even if he stood at the gate of the Black Flame Hall. Luli could kill Yun Kaiwe. Apart from some powerful warriors of the Black Flame Hall, who could be a match for Luli. It had only been 10 years since Luli came to the second heaven. Would it be difficult for him to destroy the Black Flame Hall in dozens or hundreds of years? The small divinity has produced a big shot. Commander Lin sighed and said to himself that he could not look down on young people anymore. This was because young people had limitless possibilities, and no one knew what kind of reversal would happen. The divinity was a small place in the first heaven. It would take some time to teleport from the Dragon Island. Luli felt he had been teleported for 2 to 3 days. Finally, he stood on the ground. Because of the arrival of Luli and the others, the entire king of Yen City was livelier than ever. The teleportation formation had been lit up for 2 to 3 days. Most importantly, the teleportation formation that was lit up was connected to the upper realm. Ling Qinyan was not here, so Pan Yuqin was in charge of the overall situation. North King and East King were also here. When everyone saw the teleportation array light up, they were all overjoyed. The Shangqing Palace hadn't sent anyone to the lower realm for several years. To send someone to the lower realm at such a critical moment was a great thing. All the experts in the city had arrived. They stood outside the castle and waited for a few figures to appear in the teleportation formation. When everyone felt the powerful aura of those people, they immediately knelt on the ground in fear. "Greetings, my lords!" Pan Yuqin took the lead and shouted. She did not dare to raise her head, nor did she dare to use her divine telekinesis to probe. This was a big shot of the Shangqing Palace. Offending him would bring about great trouble. "Yuqin." A voice with a hint of excitement came. Hearing the voice, Pan Yuqin trembled and looked up at once. She burst into tears when she saw the people that she could only see in her dreams. But she didn't stand up at once. Instead, she looked at the other elders. She could tell that those people were much more powerful than Luli. One of them even had a token of the Shangqing Palace. "What are you doing on your knees? Get up." Luli walked over in strides and helped Pan Yuqin up. Pan Yuqin looked at the patriarch of the Shangqing Palace with hesitation and said gently, "Darling, there are so many lords here." "Ha ha ha." Luli laughed. He waved his hand and said, "It's okay. We are on the same side. On the same side? Pan Yu-chin was taken aback. Strong as Lu Li was, he was much weaker than the other elders. Also, one of them was clearly a patriarch of the Shangqing Palace. Had he joined the Shangqing Palace? Get up. Gan Lin walked out of the teleportation formation with the others and said with a friendly smile, "Since you are with Brother Lu, then we are on the same side. No need to stand on ceremony." "Yes, yes." Third Patriarch of the Shangqing Palace nodded with a smile and said, "We are on the same side. Don't be so courteous. Young Master Lu's family will be friends of the Shangqing Palace from now on." Friends? North King and East King were stunned. The Shangqing Palace had always been their master and they were just servants. Since when did the Shangqing Palace become so accommodating? Friends were on an equal footing. For example, why would they say that they were friends with people from the mortal world? Young Master Lu? Pan Yu-chin's eyes glowed. She was smart and could tell at once. It seemed that Lu Li had been doing well in the second heaven. Even the Shangqing Palace had to give him face? "I am Lin Shuangqi, third patriarch of the Shangqing Palace." Third Patriarch continued, "The previous master of the Shangqing Palace had a talk with young Master Lu in person. From now on, the Shangqing Palace will no longer be in charge of the land of Yuyan." "What do you mean by that?" Pan Yu-chin, East King and North King's expressions changed. The current situation in the divinity was confusing. They needed the support of the Shangqing Palace. Now that the Shangqing Palace was abandoning the responsibility, wasn't it asking for their lives? Without the protection of the Shangqing Palace, the forces behind the four supreme forces would have no scruples. "Lord, you can't do this." East King was anxious. He bowed and said, "If the Shangqing Palace doesn't govern us, we will be doomed." "Are you kidding me?" Third Patriarch said with a smile, "With young Master Lu here, even the forces at the second heaven will not dare to offend you, let alone those small forces in the divinity. Young Master Lu, now that everything is clear, I will leave now." "Okay." Lu Li casually cupped his fists and said, "Thank you, Third Patriarch." Third Patriarch stepped into the teleportation formation again, activated the altar and left. After Third Patriarch left, Lu Li glanced to Pan Yu-chin and the others who were anxious. He said with a smile, "What? Without the protection of the Shangqing Palace, are you afraid that I cannot protect the land of Yuyan? Right, my people are all at the land of Yuyan, right? Where is Ling Qinyan? How come I don't see him?" "They are all here, at the Pan King City." Pan Yu-chin explained, "None of your family members are missing. They have all been brought to the Pan King City. But recently something happened. My 2 wives are injured. Sister Qinyan has gone to the divinity to seek justice for them." "What?" Lu Li's expressions changed. A surge of murderous intent spread out from him. He was like a ferocious beast baring its fangs. His oppressive aura caused East King, North King, and the others to feel their knees go weak. They immediately knelt down in fear. "Darling, don't be hasty." Pan Yu-chin took Lu Li's hands and said, "The divinity has been a bit strange lately. I think someone from the upper universe has come down. You should find out before you do anything." "Upper universe?" Chapter 2097. King Pan City. Later on, this city was expanded, specifically building thousands of manors in the northern part of the city. There were even soldiers patrolling nearby. This region was a restricted area in Pan King City. No one was allowed to enter. Of course, no one would come here to cause trouble. Occasionally, someone would pass by, and they would look at him with reverence. Everyone in the Pan King City knew that the people living here were from the Lu family, the family of Lu Li, the savior of the divinity. Originally, when the Prince of Yen brought the Lu family over, he wanted to arrange for them to stay in the King of Yan City. That being said, there were too many powerful warriors in the King of Yen City. Princess of Yen was too enchanting. Jiang Qiling and the others felt there must be something going on between Ling Qinyan and Lu Li. In addition, the king of Yen had always been rumored to be in a bad state. Rumor had it that he had killed tens of thousands of his own clansmen. That was why he suggested staying in King Pan City. Pan Yuqin was gentle and elegant. Jiang Qiling, by Qiushue, and by Xiaoshuang liked her more. Without so many powerful warriors living here, they felt less pressured. Ling Qinyan and Pan Yuqin respected the opinion of Lu Li's 3 wives. Therefore, they expanded the King Pan city and opened up a space for the Lu family. He had also provided a large amount of elixirs and secret manuals to the Lu family, allowing them to develop quickly. The Lu family had been developing fast. Within 10 years, there were nearly 100 people who had reached the immortal realm. Jiang Qiling, patriarch of law enforcement, Lu Xingyang, Lu Renhuang, Prajna Yiluo, Lu Feishue, Ming Yu and many others had reached the immortal realm. The God realm was the lowest realm in the God world. With a huge amount of resources and supreme cultivation techniques, as long as one's talent was not too bad, one could easily break through to the God realm. At this rate, there would be more than 1,000 people in the Lu clan who had broken through to the immortal state in less than a decade. Now, the Lu family was no longer just a family with the surname Lu. The Yi family, the Jiang family, and the Kong family were all considered to be affiliated families of the Lu family. Therefore, there were many Lu family disciples in the divinity, more than 5,000 or 6,000 in total. Some were left in the Earth Imperial Universe. If all of them were brought up, the total would reach tens of thousands. These few days, the atmosphere in the Lu family was exceptionally heavy. Initially, some of the young masters who often went out to play didn't dare to go out these few days. They just stayed at home and cultivated. The 2 mistresses of the Lu clan were injured. Although their injuries were not serious, they had to be carried back. This matter had infuriated the Lu family's disciples, but the Lu family hadn't been in the divine world for long, and their battle prowess was considered the lowest in the divine world. Therefore, although they had a high status, they did not have the strength to take revenge. Outside the loft of a luxurious manor of the Lu family, a young man was kneeling stubbornly outside. He had been kneeling for several days. Many people tried to persuade him to get up, but he stubbornly continued to kneel. A sigh came from one of the pavilions. Following that, a beautiful woman walked out. She looked at the young man and said, "Luan, since you know your mistake, go back and cultivate well. The injuries of the 2 mothers have mostly recovered, so you don't have to worry." "No." The young man stubbornly continued to kneel. With red eyes, he said, "It was I who was reckless and made my mother suffer. Before my 2 mothers recover, I will continue to kneel here. Are you not going to listen to me anymore?" The beautiful woman revealed a sullen expression and was about to reprimand him. Suddenly, a few figures flew over from the distant sky. A powerful divine sense radiated over and locked onto her. The anger on the beautiful woman's face intensified. This was a forbidden ground. Who dared to fly in the Lu clan's manor? How dare they use their divine senses to check her so rudely? The beautiful woman looked up and scanned with her divine senses. When she locked onto a person in midair, her delicate body trembled violently. Her legs went soft, and she almost lost her balance. She subconsciously rubbed her eyes, thinking that she had seen wrongly. When she opened her eyes again, she looked at the figure that was getting closer and closer. When she saw that dreamy face, hot tears flowed down like pearls from her eyes. She could no longer hold back her tears. Get up." The beautiful woman let out a trembling voice and said, "There is no need to kneel. Your father will naturally help you make up for your mistake. He will also help you seek justice." "Father?" Luan's face revealed a trace of astonishment. His biological father was Yi Luo. Naturally, he thought of Yi Luo. What did Yi Luo mean by making up for his mistake? He followed the beautiful woman's gaze and looked over. His eyes widened as he said with a face full of shock, "Father? Father is back. Luan, why are you making a ruckus outside? Don't you know that your mothers are resting?" Lu Feixue walked out from the attic with a cup in her hand. She stared at Luan in dissatisfaction. At that moment, a man came down from the sky and landed in the yard. Then came a familiar voice, "Aunt Chioshue, I am back!" Bang! The cup in Lu Feishue's hand fell to the ground and broke into pieces. Lu Feishue's eyes were filled with tears. Her lips trembled as she said, "Luli? Is it really you?" Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Many people flew out from the more than a dozen yards and rushed over. When they saw the white-haired young man standing in the yard, the entire Lu family was thrown into chaos. "Darling?" 2 people rushed out from the attic. They were still in their sleeping robes. Bai Xiaoshuang's forehead was still wrapped in white gauze with blood seeping out. She threw herself into Lu Li's arms as soon as she saw him. She cried her heart out as if she was trying to vent all the grievances she had suffered over the years. Lu Li held Bai Xiaoshuang in his arms. He could no longer hold back his anger when he saw the wound on her forehead. Killing intent spread out from him. Many Lu family warriors that were about to come over stopped. They felt they could not breathe. "My grandson is back. He is back," Lu Xingyang cried. He walked over with Lu Renhuang, Mingyu, and Jiang Hua. Lu Li handed Bai Xiaoshuang over to Bai Chioshue. Then, he dropped to one knee and said, "Greetings, Grandpa, Father, and elders. Get up, get up." Lu Xingyang took Lu Li's hands, choking with sobs. Lu Renhuang's eyes were filled with tears as well. He nodded and said, "It is good that you are back. I am sorry that you have suffered." "I am not filial." Lu Li felt like crying. Even though the Lu family had grown stronger because of him, they were also affected by him. They must have been living in fear all these years. "Qiling, Chioshue." Lu Li turned around and hugged Bai Chioshue and Jiang Qiling. Looking at Jiang Qiling's pale face, Lu Li said with determination, "Trust me. I will make whoever hurt you pay for it 100 times over." "Okay." Jiang Qiling's beautiful face was covered in tears. She smiled and said, "My man is back. From now on, nobody can bully us." Lu Li patted Jiang Qiling's shoulder and then greeted Jiang Hua, Yi Luo, and some other familiar faces. In the end, his gaze landed on a delicate woman. She stood at the side and seemed to be a little out of place with the Lu family. When Lu Li saw her, she said with tears in her eyes, "Brother, Shi'er, come here." Lu Li waved his hand. Qi Shi'er worked up her courage and flew over like a bird into Lu Li's arms. "Brother Lu." Chapter 2098. When he met Prajna, Lu Li was young and so was Prajna. She was a little nun as pretty as a porcelain doll. Later on, Prajna grew up and returned to secular life. But Lu Li had always treated Prajna as a little sister. He had turned her down time and time again. Eventually, before Lu Li ascended to the divinity, Prajna came to him and told him that when she became an immortal, she should go to the divinity to find him and ask him to accept her. Lu Li agreed to it. Prajna cultivated hard and became the youngest warrior of the semi-god realm in the 9 universes. On several occasions, Lu Li went back to the Earth Imperial Universe to avoid seeing Prajna because he wanted her to forget about him and marry a man she loved. After all, back then, Lu Li was a wanderer. He could not even guarantee his own safety. The divinity was full of dangers and he could bring disaster to the Lu family. Lu Li's heart skipped a beat when he heard Prajna had become an immortal. He knew that Prajna had been waiting for him and she had been working hard for him to accept her. In order to make the man she loved accept her, a young and beautiful woman wasted the best years of her youth and went into seclusion to cultivate alone. Humans were not plants. How could they be emotionless? While Lu Li was moved, he also felt troubled. What about Pan Yuqin? He had incurred too many debts of love. I will not dwell on it. Luli recalled the ups and downs over the years, the life and death experiences. Soon, he calmed down. Apart from life and death, nothing else mattered. As long as they could live happily, as long as they felt that this was the only way to live, then what did it matter? In this world, the strong were respected. Many big shots had thousands of wives and concubines. Luli was not pedantic. He just told himself that he should never mess around with women again. Having thought this through, Luli patted Chi-Shir's shoulder and walked over to Prajna. He patted her head and said with a smile, "Congratulations, Prajna. The promise I made to you is still valid." Woo-woo, Prajna threw herself into Luli's arms. Soon, she came back to her senses and let go of Luli. She looked at him affectionately and said, "Brother Lu, what I have done over the years is worth it." Luli gave her a look, but did not say much to Prajna. He went on to greet the others. Jiang Qiling and Bai Qiushua looked at each other and forced a smile. Their husbands found more sisters for them? But as long as Luli could come back safely, nothing else mattered to them. It was just as Luli had thought. Apart from his life and death, nothing else mattered. As long as Luli could survive, they wouldn't worry too much. Since Jiang Qiling and Bai Xiaoshuang were still injured, Lu Jingyang told Luli to take them in to tend to their wounds first. Luli did not see Patriarch of Law Enforcement. He asked and learned that Patriarch of Law Enforcement was cultivating. Luli told Lu Jingyang and the others to rest in a hall nearby, and then introduced Gan Lin and the others. He led them in. He took out some healing pellets of the second sky and fed them to the two. Then, he used divine energy to heal them. Naturally, the pellets of the second plane were better than those in the divinity. In a couple of hours, most of their wounds were healed. Luli also had a clear understanding of what happened. "Zhuoqiu Gui?" Luli murmured. It seemed that many people of the Zhuoqiu family had escaped back then. How could a young disciple cultivate so fast? He could be as fast as Prince East and Prince North. Luli would not believe that there was no one behind it. Yuqin. Luli went out to find Pan Yuqin and said, "Send someone to find Ling Qingyan and tell her to come back. I will deal with this later." "I have done that." Pan Yuqin was smart. As soon as Luli came back, she gave her orders. Luli nodded and walked into the hall. Gan Lin and Lu Jingyang were chatting happily. Gan Lin did not put on any airs. He was kind and respectful to Lu Jingyang and Lu Renhuang. Luli chatted with them for half a day. He told them about going to the second sky, but he did not go into details. He only said that he had met a benefactor. In the future, he would not have to worry about invading the divinity. Nobody would have the courage to kill him. Lu Jingyang and Lu Renhuang were overjoyed. Gan Lin added that the Lu family was going to the Asmodean island at the second sky. It was safer there and they could cultivate faster. The Lu family was happy and worried at the same time. It was good that they could go to a higher realm. However, they were not powerful enough. They had finally settled down in the divinity, and now they had to go to a new place. Inevitably, they felt conflicted and uneasy. "Don't worry." Gan Lin saw the worry in everyone's eyes. He explained, "The safest place in the second sky is the Asmodean island. Before we came, the Asmodeans sent a message to my father, saying that from now on, the Mountain of Clouds will be given to Luli. You can all go to the Mountain of Clouds to cultivate and live. Later, we will arrange for someone to build a teleportation altar to connect here and the Mountain of Clouds. It will be easy for you to go back to the divinity." Gan Lin did not mention this to Luli, which surprised him. He was even more grateful to the Asmodean. The Mountain of Clouds was a wonderful place, especially the peak. The Xian Qi in heaven and earth was rich there. If the Lu family could live on the peak, they would all be able to reach the immortal realm without much cultivation. There was also a Tower of Monsters on the Mountain of Clouds. They could cultivate in the Tower of Monsters and grow stronger. In hundreds of years, The Lu family might not become a super family at the second sky, but at least they would be strong. What a great favor! Lu Li kept his gratitude in mind. He told himself that he must reach the peak of the third tribulation as soon as possible and go to the third sky to help the Asmodean get the scroll back. Rustle, rustle, rustle. They chatted for 2 hours when a team leader suddenly came in. He walked to Pan Yuqin with a serious face and whispered something to her. What? Pan Yuqin was taken aback. She stood up. Lu Li looked at her and asked coldly, What is going on? Sister Qing Yan is in trouble. Pan Yuqin could not care less about the crowd. She said directly, Sister Qing Yan was ambushed in the divinity. She fled after being badly injured. Now, I don't know if she is still alive. How dare you? Lu Li was enraged. He hadn't gone to the divinity to confront those people yet. Now, they had made a move? Ling Qingyan was his woman. If she really died, he was afraid that he would go crazy. Brother gone. Lu Li could not stay here a second longer. He cupped his fists to Gan Lin and said, I have to go and deal with something. You stay here. Go to Pan Yuqin if you need anything. I will go with you. Gan Lin stood up and said coldly, I am curious as well. Who has the guts to make trouble in the divinity? Gan Lin had learned something about the divinity. Theoretically speaking, a force at the second sky would not have the guts to come down and mess around. Gan Lin was confused that someone dared to lay a finger on Lu Li's woman. Yes. The 4 followers of Axe Demon stood up as well and said, Young Master Lu, let's go together and see who is the fool. Lu Li was confident that he could handle it. That being said, he could not turn down Gan Lin and the others' hospitality. He nodded and said, Then, please go into my interspatial artifact first. I will fly there directly. Okay. Gan Lin and the others nodded. Lu Li let them into the mountain. Then, he asked Pan Yuqin, where was Ling Qingyan ambushed? Residence of Beast God. Pan Yuqin answered at once. Lu Li nodded and said, I will go there first. Have your scouts check on the situation and report to me at any time. Hiss, Lu Li drew a talisman in the air. A small golden door appeared. Then, he walked in and disappeared from everyone's sight. Lu Xingyang was worried. Lady Pan, will she be okay? Grandpa Lu, don't worry. Chapter 2099. The 4 supreme forces of the divine world actually had no contact with the second heaven all these years. It was not that they did not want to contact the people above, but the people above did not care about them. The divine world was just a small domain, and there were many domains like this. The great forces of the second heaven all controlled many of these small domains. Because the divine world was controlled by several great forces, there had never been a great force that could dominate the divine world. Therefore, the great forces above actually did not care about the divine world. In addition, the evil demons invaded the divine world some time ago, causing great damage to the vitality of the divine world. More than 70 to 80% of the human race died. It would take at least thousands of years for the divine world to recover to its heyday. There were no special spirit medicines or divine materials in the divine world. What did the great forces above value in the divine world? Of course, it was talents that could be cultivated. This was the talent reserve base of the great forces above. Once a good seedling appeared in the divine world, he would be sent to the second heaven to join the great forces above to be cultivated. Now there were so many martial artists in the divine world that there were almost no people, let alone talent. Why would the great forces above care about the divine world? Therefore, the recent rise of the 3 supreme forces actually had nothing to do with the great forces of the second heaven. The great forces above were not doing charity and providing so many resources to the 3 supreme forces for no reason. There was naturally a reason why the 3 supreme forces rose so quickly recently. It was because 3 mysterious experts came to the divine world. They secretly controlled the 3 supreme forces and gave them countless resources, which allowed many people in the 3 supreme forces to rise quickly. The origins of these 3 people were very mysterious, and their battle strength was also very strong. They also had their own strange magical skills and spells, which easily controlled the 3 supreme forces. Only the craftsman's sect did not surrender. Luo Huang was the current craftsman's sect master, and she refused the recruitment of the 3 mysterious experts. Still not found. In the Beast God City, a handsome young man angrily looked at the commanders kneeling on the ground and shouted, "Ling Qinyan is so badly injured. You sent thousands of people to search for him for so many days and you still can't find him? Are you all useless? Young master, please forgive us." The few commanders' faces were full of resentment. One commander plucked up his courage and said, "Ling Qinyan is Prince Yan. Her strength is unfathomable and she has thousands of magical skills. If she wants to hide, it will be difficult for those low-level scouts to find her." Zhuoqiu Gui, don't make things difficult for them. A gloomy voice rang out. Everyone's gaze turned to the person who was shrouded in a black robe sitting on the main seat. The handsome young master quickly bowed and said, "Third master, my subordinates are incompetent." "Don't worry," the black-robed man waved his hand and said, "I will personally pursue her. She has been poisoned by my parasite and can't run far. Furthermore, even if she escapes, she won't be able to live for long." "Really?" Zhuoqiu Gui was overjoyed. "If we can kill Ling Qinyan, that slut, we will soon conquer Yuyan." "What is a mere Yuyan pass?" The black-robed man said coldly. "Go back and take down the craftsman's sect as well, and let your space-time mansion unify the entire immortal realm." "Thank you, Third Master." Zhuoqiu Gui was overjoyed. The black-robed man ignored him and took out a black bone. It was covered in divine runes, and there were goo worms crawling in and out of it. It looked extremely terrifying. Buzz, after a while, a small goo worm flew out and headed to the east. The black-robed man looked up and showed his scarred face. He sneered and said, "In the east. Zhuoqiu Gui, bring your men and follow me. This time, we cannot let this woman escape. TSK. This woman is of the highest quality. Third Master will enjoy her. It's a pity that I was injured last time, or else she wouldn't have been able to escape." "Yes, sir." Zhuoqiu Gui cupped his fists and arranged for thousands of men to follow. He was envious. He had been drooling over a girl of the highest quality, like Ling Qinyan, for a long time. He wondered if Third Master would give her to him after he was tired of her. The black-robed man led thousands of men and rushed to the east. Only 10 to 12 hours after they left, a figure flew over from the north of the Divine Beast Mansion. Lu Li flew over. When he arrived, he released his dragon wings and unfettered steps and dashed toward the Beast God City at a terrifying speed. Ling Qinyan was missing. None of the scouts of Yuyan Pass could find her. Therefore, Lu Li wanted to come to the Beast God City as soon as possible to capture a group of people and interrogate them. This way, it would be easier to find Ling Qinyan. What? Zhuoqiu Gui had left, but there were still thousands of warriors in the Beast God City. There were a few soldiers standing on the city wall. They had just seen a black dot in the north, and in the next second, a figure appeared in the sky above the city, scaring many of the soldiers. Was this person still human with such speed? Yes, he is not a human being. Many warriors thought to themselves when they saw the dragon wings on Lu Li's back. He must not be a human being if he had wings. However, when they took a closer look, many warriors were taken aback. Many trembled and someone shouted in surprise, He looks like Lu Li." Lu Li was a celebrity in the divinity. Many warriors had never seen him in person, but his portrait and statues could be found in many places. Some civilians even put his portrait on display in their homes and worshipped him day and night. Luli paid no attention to the warriors. He spread out his psychic power and covered the entire city. He didn't see anyone familiar, but he didn't mind. He found the most powerful warrior, dashed to the warrior's side, grabbed the warrior's neck and lifted him up. Everyone in the city was taken aback again. The warrior Luli caught was a deacon of Spacetime Office, the most powerful among them. How could Luli capture him so easily? How powerful was Luli? Is it really Luli? Some people were taken aback. Luli's abilities were horrifying. Back in the days, he defeated all the demons and defeated the 4 legendary forces. If it were Luli himself, then the 4 legendary forces would have been doomed. Where is Prince Yen, Ling Qingyan? Luli asked the deacon coldly and added, if you answer well, you can all live. If not, all warriors in the city will die. As Luli spoke, he couldn't suppress his murderous intent. Everyone in the city felt as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. The deacon that was caught by Luli wanted to fight back, but he didn't dare to move. He stared into Luli's eyes and asked with trembling lips, You are Lord Luli? Yes, Luli answered coldly. Many people in the city dropped to their knees at once. They didn't care about the dispute between the divinity and the land of serenity. All they knew was that Luli was the savior of the divinity, the savior of everyone. Lord Luli! Many more warriors dropped to their knees. To many people, Luli was like a god, regardless of whether they were enemies or not. His reputation deserved their knees. Lord Lu! A glint of despair rose in the deacon's eyes. Soon, he made up his mind and said, I don't know where Prince Yen is, but young Chief and Lord 3 just went to the east with thousands of warriors. I think they are going to search for Prince Yen. Young Chief? Lord 3? Luli frowned and asked, Who are they? The deacon explained, Young Chief is Zhuo Gui, the grandnephew of the former chief Zhuo Lu. Lord 3. I don't know who he is. Chief Master and Patriarchs call him Lord 3. He is very powerful. There really are some monsters. Luli sneered. He flew up and went to the east with the deacon in his hand. Soon, he vanished in a blur. I thought Lord Luli was dead? It was not until the time for half an incense stick to burn that someone shouted in surprise. Several years ago, there was a rumor in the divinity that Luli had passed away. Otherwise, who would dare to make trouble at the land of serenity when Luli was in charge? The world is changing. Chapter 2100. Willow River Prefecture. There was a cave in the underground river. At the moment, there was an inhibition formation in the cave. The inhibition formation formed a dim shield that isolated the chi and energy from the outside. A beautiful lady was sitting in the shield with her legs crossed. Her face was pale and half of her body was covered in blood. The bone of her left shoulder could be seen. She had been sitting there cross-legged for 5 days. Although her injuries had healed a little during these 5 days, her complexion had become even paler. Goo poison, she opened her eyes at this moment. There was a glint of despair in her eyes. She murmured, There are venomous insects in my blood. They are eating my blood. In less than half a month, I will die, right? These venomous insects are too powerful and vicious. Alas, she sighed. She was not afraid of death. She was just sorry that she could no longer protect the land of Yuyan, the Ling family and the Lu family. Who is that black-robed man? There was a trace of fear in her eyes as she muttered, Could it really be someone from the second heaven? But the Hall of Black Flame is not good at using venomous insects. I have never heard of such a powerful warrior in the forces behind the Hall of Life and Death and the Pavilion of Destiny. After thinking for a while, she still could not figure it out. She bit her teeth and murmured, I cannot die, otherwise the land of Yuyan Pass will be finished. The people of the Lu family will all be killed. I have failed Luli, I will not die in peace. She closed her eyes and continued to sit with her legs crossed, trying to force the venomous insects out or kill them. Unfortunately, the venomous insects were splitting inside her body. There was no way to kill them all. PFF, half a day later, she suddenly spat out some blood. There were many venomous insects swimming in her blood. She looked up and was even more frightened. The venomous insects are so active. That black-robed man is here. Ling Qinyan took out a dark golden rod. This was the spirit heaven treasure that Lu Li gave her. Her armor had already been shattered, so this was the only thing she could rely on. I will kill him even if I have to die, Ling Qinyan said coldly. She was filled with fighting spirit. She had just finished her words when she heard a creepy laugh. Pretty girl, you want to kill me? You must be suffering these days. You have less than 30% of your abilities now. Xiao! A beam of light flew over. Ling Qinyan's shield exploded, and the beam of light shot over. Ling Qinyan clapped his hands and flew up. Soon, he broke out of the ground. In the air, a man in a black robe sat on a chariot with thousands of soldiers beside him. Zhuoqiu Gui was right next to the chariot, staring at Ling Qinyan as if he wanted to rip her clothes off. Beauty! Third Master's eerie voice continued. Submit to me, and not only will I cure you of the goo poison, I will also bestow you with many treasures, allowing you to easily break through to the second tribulation realm. I can even make you the most powerful woman in the God realm. Zhuoqiu Gui's expression changed slightly, but he didn't dare to say anything. Ling Qin glanced at the crowd and sneered. Who do you think you are? You ugly thing that's neither human nor ghost, yet you want this king to submit to you? Dream on. You refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. Third Master was enraged. A bone appeared in his hand with goo insects crawling in and out. He said with a murderous look, Since you are so stubborn, I will refine you into a corpse lady. It will be more fun that way. Whoosh, whoosh, countless beams of black light shot out from the black bone. Those were powerful goo insects. They came from all directions and started to attack Ling Qinyan. These goo insects were vicious and powerful. Ling Qinyan's primordial spirit treasure armor was destroyed by them. Not daring to underestimate them, she immediately released her most powerful attack at the surrounding goo insects. Boom, boom, boom. The goo insects were knocked away and some were killed. Unfortunately, Ling Qinyan was much weaker than when she was at her peak. The goo insects kept coming and soon exploded around Ling Qinyan. She was injured again and was blown away again and again. Tisk, tisk. Third Master sighed. Such a beautiful body, but you are injured. I pity you. Beauty, don't struggle. You are no match for me even at your peak, let alone now. Zhuoqiu Gui nodded and said, Yes, Prince Yen, surrender. Think about your people. If you die, all of them will die. If you surrender, I will make sure your people live. Who do you think you are? Ling Qinyan glared at Zhuoqiu Gui and suddenly flew towards the chariot. The dark golden iron rod became longer and smashed towards Zhuoqiu Gui. She shouted coldly, Back then, even your grandpa didn't dare to mess with me. How dare you threaten me? Go to hell. The black bone in the man's hand flashed with black light. He threw it out and the bone grew bigger and clashed with the dark golden iron rod. Ling Qinyan felt a strong force, and her iron rod was shaken away. Bang! A goo worm flew over and exploded outside Ling Qinyan's body. Her delicate body was sent flying and rolled on the ground. She was badly injured and was not as strong as before. She was no match for the man in black. First, I will let you taste the pain of thousands of goo insects piercing your heart. The man in black laughed. Countless black lights lit up in the bone and goo insects flew out, covering the sky. It was a scary scene. Whoosh! Right at that moment, there came a noise from the west. The noise was weak, but it caught the attention of the man in black. The man in black stopped what he was doing. He was surprised. Zhuoqiu Gui and the others were attracted. They looked over and their expressions changed. From the west, a man was flying over at a horrifying speed. A moment ago, he was thousands of miles away. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of them. His face was getting bigger and bigger. That man! Zhuoqiu Gui looked like he had seen a ghost as he pointed at the figure that was getting closer and closer. Third Master's face also revealed a serious expression because the speed of the person approaching was too fast, to the point that it was frightening. When the man was 30 miles away, Third Patriarch stood up, cupped his fists and said, "Greetings, Lord." "Lord?" Zhuoqiu Gui blinked and was about to salute as well. Then he thought of something and murmured, "Third Patriarch, he looks like Luli." Ling Qinyan was so weak that she almost passed out. She heard Zhuoqiu Gui's voice. Her eyes glowed. She stood up and looked to the west. When he saw a familiar face and a pair of eyes full of heartache, Ling Qinyan's body trembled. Tears gushed out of her eyes. She cried, "Little man, is it really you? Luli?" Third Patriarch was confused. Then he remembered. He asked with a straight face, "The man you were talking about?" "Yes, it is me," Luli answered. Then he flew down. He paid no attention to Third Patriarch and Zhuoqiu Gui. He half knelt next to Ling Qinyan. He touched Ling Qinyan's blood-covered face with trembling hands. He blamed himself and said, "Qinyan, it is all my fault. I came back too late." Not late, not late. Ling Qinyan smiled. Because of the blood, her smile was sad and beautiful. She said with tears in her eyes, "I can die without regrets now that I can see you again." "You will not die," Luli said with determination, "you will live on until the end of time. As for those who hurt you, I will make them beg for death." You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.